and her husband, Stephen, are suing former friends, 19-year-old T.J. Cuddy and 24-year-old Rick Large. The Irwins say they hired the defendants to look after their house, and instead, they threw a party. T.J. has a separate lawsuit against the Irwins for the return of a down payment on a bike.
Order. All rise. Your Honor, this is case number 572 and 560. One is Irwin versus Cuddy Large, and the other one is a cross-complaint, Cuddy versus Irwin. Parties have been sworn in, Judge. You may be seated.
Mr. and Mrs. Irwin, I'm going to address your claim first, and then I will address the claim by one of the defendants, Mr. Cuddy. According to your complaint, you hired these two young men to do some work in your house while you were gone on some sort of vacation or business trip. And they were given a whole list of things to do. They had access to your home. And it is your claim that they threw a major party while they were there, and that as a result of that, your home was invaded, a large group of people, that some things were destroyed or damaged, and a substantial amount of money stolen. And you're suing both of these young men for $5,000.
Correct.
The defendant said it was no big deal party, just a few friends, nobody went into the house. And Mr. Cuddy has a cross-complaint, which I will get to in a moment. Who's Mr. Cuddy?
Would be me here.
That's you. All right, how did you know these two young men?
Rick Large had worked for us, done some work for our business for about a year.
What kind of business?
A computer business. And Mr. Cuddy, my husband had known him for probably about 12 years, and I'd known him about 6 years. And he was also a neighbor of ours.
And you gave both these young men access to your home?
Actually, Rick Large was the one that was hired to come in and feed the dogs, check emails, pick up mail, pick up the newspaper, and do a few chores around the house, and we paid him $300 for the week to do that.
You only paid Mr. Large?
Correct.
Okay, were they supposed to stay in the house?
No.
Okay, and what did you find when you came home?
When we first they came to pick us up at the airport, and they were supposed to come in our truck, but they came in Mr. Cuddy's mother's truck because they said they couldn't find the keys to the vehicle, which also has our home key on it and speed pass. When we got home, we gave them T-shirts we'd bought for them, and they left, and we were home for a few minutes, and our doorbell rang, and our neighbor came over and was very upset and said that while we were gone...
Can't tell me what your neighbor said.
Oh, okay. Well, we started looking around and noticed things that were moved, found a disc jockey card on my table in my family room, found broken beer bottle and beer still on the floor in the family room.
A broken beer bottle?
Mm-hmm. We went to open our garbage compactor, and it was jammed. When we finally were able to pry it open, there was the remains of grapefruit rinds, a big vodka bottle that had been jammed in there. When we went upstairs that night to go to bed, we could tell that our guest room and our room both had been remade, the bedding had been remade, and my husband went over to his side of the bed and saw on the floor a grungy-looking T-shirt wrapped around a rag that was left there. At that point, we did call the guys to come back after we found out about the party and confronted them that night. Their response was, it was no big deal, we had a few friends over, what's the problem? The next day, we found the money was missing. We found...
What money?
In the drawer in my desk upstairs. We keep money in a...
Bank bag.
Bank bag. But as we started going through the house, like I said, we started finding more and more things that had been destroyed. On the nightstand in our bedroom, there's a watermark, which I do have a picture of that.
Tell me about this party, gentlemen. Look.
Well, Your Honor...
I want you to look at me,
No,
and I want you to make
apologize.
sure of one thing.
Okay.
How old are you?
I'm 19.
I want you to tell me about the party. Everything about the party.
Okay.
I want you to just realize it. The truth will set you free. Don't try to scam me with you had a couple of friends over for a little barbecue in the backyard. I want to know how many people were there, inside or outside. How many invited, how many uninvited. How many just showed up.
How many people showed up? Approximately on Friday night, we had about 40 people show up.
Oh, okay, so you had about 40. And how many people had you in... I read your papers, but you know, I've had teenagers, so I know.
I understand.
Okay, good. So you had about 40.
Your Honor?
Could there have been 50?
It's a possibility, yes, but
Oh,
it's not
so there
likely.
could have been 50. How many did you invite?
I personally didn't invite anybody to the party.
Who did?
That
I
would
did.
have been Rick.
How many did you invite to the party?
3 or 4 people.
Shh. So you invited 3 or 4 and 40 or 50 or so showed up. Did you call the police?
No,
Why not?
because everybody was having a good time. We were very responsible, kept the house locked at all times. Everybody was strictly in the backyard only,
Well,
and
people...
I didn't want to ruin a good time.
Well,
Judge, the
Mr.
police were called.
Just a second. Mr. Large,
Yes.
you know that your conduct was unacceptable. You had a party, you had alcohol at the party? Speak.
Yes,
Who purchased the alcohol?
I purchased some of the alcohol.
All right. How much beer did you purchase, sir?
I didn't purchase beer. I purchased a bottle of gin,
Yes.
and that was it.
You mean that 40 or 50 people survived for an evening of revelry on 1 bottle of gin?
No, actually, people brought their own alcohol.
Really? So they were smart enough to come and bring their own stuff. Now, so you want to tell me how many hours this party lasted?
I don't know, about 8.
All right. So are you telling me, sir, that in an 8-hour party where everybody was drinking, nobody had to use a bathroom?
No, actually, they did, and I instructed them they weren't to go in the house under
So where
any
did they use a
circumstance.
bathroom? Where did they go potty?
I told them that they needed to go to a McDonald's down the street or somewhere down the street.
Sure.
Real cases, real people. Judge Judy. Diana and Stephen Irwin claim former friends T.J. Cuddy and Rick Large were hired to look after their home. The Irwins say the boys threw a wild party and trashed their house.
So who slept in the beds?
Nobody slept in. I slept in a guest room, on the guest room bed.
Was that part of your agreement?
Well,
That you were supposed to stay in the house?
they let me, I actually live with the Irwins. They told me they treated me like a son. They had welcomed me everywhere. You know, they said, you're
Was
welcome.
it your arrangement on this weekend that you were to stay in the house?
No.
Miss Irwin,
Yes.
let me make myself clear. We are not going to entertain your missed money,
Right.
and I'm going to tell you why. Because it doesn't sound logical to me that somebody goes away and leaves 2 young men with access to their home and leaves what you claim was $8,000 in cash in your top desk drawer. Doesn't sound kosher to me. So I'm going to entertain your claim of whatever damage was done in your house, because I believe that both of these young men are absolutely responsible for that. Because if they invited 3 or 4 people and 50 people showed up, the first thing that you do if you are responsible is you get on the phone, you call the police, and you say there are people trespassing on this property and I want them removed. They chose not to do that because, according to Mr. Lodge, they were all having a good time in this party that lasted 8 hours. To me, a party lasts 4 hours and then your company goes home and that's it. So, tell me exactly what was damaged, how much it's going to cost to fix it, because that they are responsible for.
Well, we did also, I did want to say that the police were called 2 nights.
It was a long party. It was a long party.
Well, and the
You
one...
know that you don't leave teenage boys in your house, 19, 20, 21 years old, in your house and say, the house is now empty. Because you know what happens? The word gets out into the street. Party! And everybody comes.
They did note that they had planned the party well before we were out of town even.
Right. And how did
And-
they do that? Did they do that by
Right.
hiring, according to what I read in your complaint, a disc jockey?
Yes.
Was that disc jockey hired 3 weeks in advance?
No, ma'am.
When?
We called the disc jockey 2 hours before a party.
2 hours before the 3 or 4 people that you had invited arrived?
He was one of those.
Huh?
He was the person.
2 hours
one of
before the 3 or 4 people that you were having over for intimate barbecue in the backyard arrived, you called a disc jockey.
Well, Your Honor, the disc jockey was a personal friend of Rick's, and when he called his friend, the DJ, he was at another party, and instead of keeping that party there, he decided to bring it with him. That's how all those people ended up at the Irwin's house.
They get put off the premises by the police.
Yeah. We understand that what we did was wrong. That
Perfect.
night,
So then let's get to it. How much damage was caused?
We had to have the house rekeyed because we found that the...
You're absolutely right. Rekeyed. How much? Let me just get out my little calculator.
75.
75.75.
The
What else?
car had to be rekeyed, 96.54. No, on the table, I don't know how, or the nightstand. I don't know. I haven't gotten a quote on how much it will cost to fix the ring that's on there.
Do you have a picture of it for me to look at?
Yes, I do.
That's not a major deal. Do you have children?
Yes.
How old are your children?
25 and 27.
Ever left your children alone over the weekend and had a group of people over there that you didn't invite?
Yes, but they're much more responsible than that.
But it's happened. I know, I have kids.
But I think
I've had large parties, unanticipated parties at my house.
But I think the difference is it's my children and it's their home. And
That's why you trust your children. You don't trust strangers. You don't give strangers, teenagers, and those just above teen. How old are you?
I'm 24, but they always told me they treated me like a son.
Don't give me baloney.
Okay.
If they treated you like a son and you treated them like a parent, you would have been more careful with their property. Now let's get to Mr. Cuddy. Mr. Cuddy, according to your complaint, Mr. and Mrs. Irwin were very nice to you. You wanted a motorcycle.
Yes.
And
that's
Mr.
correct.
Irwin agreed to advance you some money for the motorcycle.
Yes, he agreed to be the lien holder on the title
Right. According to what I read, it was $5,000. Is that right?
for $4,800 in these.
So almost $5,000. You put in $1,000 and he paid $4,000. Is that right?
That's correct.
And then he repossessed the motorcycle.
That's correct.
And you want the money that you put down on the
That's
motorcycle.
correct.
That's your claim. Where is the motorcycle now?
It is in storage.
And the title is in your name?
Yes, that is correct.
Okay, then you have to return to him $1,009.46.
But, Your Honor,
Yes.
I'm stuck with a bike, and I have a consignment agreement from the dealer that shows that clearly that the value of the bike now, I'm going to take a loss.
Listen to me. If there's bad business on your part, but I can understand Mr. Cuddy. He put in $1,009.46. He had an agreement with you. It was a verbal agreement that you were going to be the lien holder on the bike, and he was going to pay for it. You cannot keep that bike and not give him back his $1,000. You can't do it. So on your counterclaim, Mr. Cuddy, I am awarding you the $1,009.46. On your claim, Mr. and Mrs. Irwin, for these boys doing damage to your home, you are entitled to $197.29 with the admonition to you, keep strangers out of your house and don't give them access to your house because it's always trouble. And with the admonition to you, Mr. Lodge, that if you say to me that these people treated you like you were a child of theirs, one of theirs, and was very good to you, you certainly didn't respect them nor their property in a way that I would like one of my children to behave. That's all.
Parties are excused. You may step out.
Their house looked better when we left than when we got there.
The reality was it was 2 nights of parties and a barbecue.
He said that the next time Diana went out of town, he wanted us to throw a party again and invite him.
It's closure. That's what we purpose of coming.
He's a shady guy. I mean, he's really a slime ball.
Hopefully we can all move on with our lives and just go forward.
Cocktail waitress Carla DeFrank is suing her ex-fiancé, 26-year-old store clerk William Russell, for unpaid car payments and car damages. William is countersuing for the return of an engagement ring and a broken apartment lease.
Order. Come to order. All rise. Yeah, it's case number 52 on the calendar in the matter of DeFrank versus Russell. Parties have been sworn in. Judge, you may be seated. Folks, have seats, please.
Mr. Frank, while you were engaged to the defendant, according to your complaint, you financed a car for him. He couldn't get credit on his own.
Yes.
The engagement was over. He left with the car, and he said that he was going to maintain the car, make the car payments and the insurance. According to you, he stopped making the payments on the car. You repossessed it.
I took the car back.
You repossessed
Yes.
it. And you want him to pay for his missed payments. And in addition, you said that when you got back the car, it was A, filthy, and B, the brakes were bad. So you want him to pay for the brakes and, I guess.
A window was off track.
What do you mean off track?
They had to order a part to put it back on.
Ah.
I have the receipt for that.
And then he has a cross complaint, which I will get to in a minute. When did you separate from the defendant?
October 2000.
And when did you repossess the car?
March of 2001.
And when did he stop making the payments?
He never paid the payment for November, and February he missed other payments. That's when they started sending me the delinquency notices.
How many missed payments did he have?
2.
Is that right, sir?
I missed one payment in November, and I doubled up on it in February.
You did. You have proof of that?
I don't have it with me, no.
Well, where do you expect me to go to find it? That's what you're coming to court for. You're coming to court because she says that you missed payments. That's what this whole case is about.
I stopped making the payments because she kept threatening, I'm taking the car, I'm going to take the car from you.
When did you stop making the payments?
In February.
So you didn't make February's payment?
I doubled it in February. I didn't make March's payment.
Your Honor, I have the delinquency notice. if you
Can
want
I
to
see it, please?
Yeah. This is for November's, and that's when, for February, they were going to repossess it, so I wasn't aware of that.
Well, according to them, on January 19th, you owed them 2 payments.
I paid one on the 24th
Of what?
of January.
Show me.
I don't have my checkbook with me.
Well, then I have to take this as being accurate. Now, what are you doing with the car?
I had a friend of my mother's is taking over payments till he could get a loan.
So he's currently paying on it.
Well, he didn't pay on March. I didn't sell the car till, April, so I paid March also.
Let me see proof of payment for March's payment. $658.13 he owes you. That's as of January.
This was March payment 331, and I have the right there.
$331 on March 13th. Okay. So that's what he owes you so far, $989. Now, you think he should also be responsible for repairs on the car?
Well, he had, he was supposed to take the loan. He agreed to it, and he never fixed. They were worn down to the rotors. I have the receipts on all of that. I mean, it was returned to me. I have pictures of how it was returned, when I picked it up, how...
I'll take a look at the photographs.
And then I had cleaned it up. I have pictures of that also, what it looks like afterwards.
He's a slob. Mm-hmm. So? He's a slob.
And that was, that's my car and how I got it returned. And I had to clean it up in order to sell it, and it was a lot of time for me.
He's a slob.
The car was fine when I had it. I mean, I got a letter 3 weeks after she had it.
Just a second. I'm not talking about the mechanics of fixing it. You have a car that's a couple of years old. Sometimes it needs brakes. He didn't break the window. It was a mechanical thing that happened with the window. Is that right?
Yes.
It's a mechanical thing that happened with the window. All I said was he's a slob.
I cleaned out the car before I gave it back to her. I cleaned it out on March 6th.
Well, whatever. You don't get reimbursed for that, but you do get reimbursed, madam, for your car payments that you made. You were very fortunate that you got somebody else to take over these payments. And I hope it teaches you a good lesson. Do not ever finance a car for anybody. Boyfriend, fiancé, husband, child, nothing. If you finance something for somebody, don't treat it as a loan, treat it as a gift. And say goodbye to your money. Is that good advice?
It's very good advice. I'd like to talk to you later about a loan.
We've known each other a long time.
That's right.
Happily.
That's right.
Forget it.
Okay.
All right, so $989. That's on your side. Now, Mr. Russell, you have counterclaim.
Yeah.
Let's talk about your counterclaim. You want the return or value of a computer. Let's talk about the computer.
On June 8th, she gave me the computer as a birthday gift.
When was your birthday?
June 8th.
And tell me how she gave it to you.
We both went down to the store and purchased it.
What'd you give her for her birthday?
Engagement ring.
That was nice. And when was her birthday?
May 19th. March 19th, I'm sorry.
March 19th. So she got the ring first,
Yeah,
and then she bought you the computer.
yeah.
How'd she get it back?
On October 13th, I caught her with someone else, so she moved out. And the next month, she came and got her furniture. Now, if the computer is hers, what?
Just a second. That was in November. She came and got her stuff.
Yes.
Okay. So far you still have the computer?
Yeah.
When did she take the computer?
When she came to get the car, March 7th.
Really?
Yeah.
Is that right?
Yes, that's because I had a police escort, and when I went to go get
When you moved out of the house,
Yes.
you left the computer?
Because he told me that he had stuff to delete on it. He couldn't do it right away, so I'm like, you know what, I don't have time
November,
for this.
December, January, February, 5 months later, the computer's still at his house?
Well, because I had went away for a little while. I went back to New Jersey. I came back, and I decided to get my... That's when I found out about the repossession of the
He says it was a
car.
birthday present.
No, I have the receipt right here.
I believe that you have the receipt. He says you bought it for him as a birthday present. Let me see the receipt.
Might have been an assumption.
Just a minute. You bought the computer the day before his birthday. That's a coincidence.
But I mean,
That's a coincidence, and you left it in the house when you moved out.
because he had stuff on the computer that he couldn't delete right there.
That's an hour. That's 2 hours. That's a day, not 5 months.
Your Honor, the MSN was under her name. I made the monthly payments on that for the online use, and she asked me to ask my new roommate, Matt, if he could put MSN under his name. If the computer was hers, why would she want him to put it under his credit card name?
No, I believe it was a birthday present, because it was better times. It was much better times.
Real cases, real people. Judge Judy. Carla DeFrank says ex-fiancé William Russell owes for car payments as well as damages to the vehicle. William says Carla won't return the engagement ring.
On one side, we have $989. That's on your side. On your side, we have computer. That goes back to you. Then you're suing her for the engagement ring, right?
That was because she took the computer.
But if you get the computer back, she can keep the engagement ring?
Yeah.
That's very, very nice of you. Great. So you don't want the ring back as long as you get your computer back.
Bad luck.
What?
The ring was bad luck.
Very.
Perfect. Is that the ring?
Yeah, that's
Can I see it?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, it's very pretty. Very pretty. He wants you to have it.
Thank you.
It's yours.
Your Honor, I'm also suing for the $2,000 on the car because I'm selling it to the new person, and the blue book is $9,000 to $12,000. I owe $14,000 on it. So for the $2,000, no, even if he
No,
broke,
darling.
even if he had
No, darling. Did he have anything to do with finding a new purchaser for the car?
no.
You sold the car. You came to a price with the purchaser. If you had the car and said, I want to sell it, and whatever the difference is he would be responsible for, then I would say you jointly get together, get the highest possible amount that you can for the car, and then if there is a shortfall, just like you were a bank, he would be responsible for that. But you can't do that if you found the purchaser. You got it? Good. That makes sense to you?
Makes sense to me.
Good. Okay, so the computer goes back to him, and you get to keep the engagement ring, which you could probably sell. Ordinarily, the engagement ring goes back to the person who gave it to you. So I would say that if you're out of pocket any more money, what you do is sell the ring. Okay, now, you want to talk about any rent that you say she owes you, or you just want to forget that?
I want to talk about it.
You want to talk about it?
Yes.
Go ahead.
We signed a year lease. She moved out October 14th, and the lease wasn't up till January 14th, 15th, and that's $325 a month as half the rent. For 4 months, it's $1,300.
When did you get a new roommate?
December.
So she moved out in October, and she paid October.
Yeah.
Did she pay any for November?
No.
Yes, I did.
She says she paid some in November.
No, she didn't, and she harassed my roommate about.
I don't give she harassed your roommate. So far, she moves out in October, and if your roommate moves in December, that's at most 1 month that you're out, not 4. You're suing for 4 months' rent. You don't expect to get rent from her and your new roommate.
She's harassing him for her security deposit back. She broke.
Just a minute.
Huh?
She has security deposit?
Yeah,
How much?
$325.
There you go. Leave the place in good condition. That way you have the security deposit.
But she
But
wants
she's
that
not,
back.
Well, she's not suing for it. So, if you say she owes you for 1 month's rent for November, then you have her half of November's rent, right?
Yep.
Because you have the security deposit. Are you the new roommate? Be neat. What else?
That's it.
Did I resolve this? Wonderful. $998 judgment for the plaintiff. The computer is to be returned within 5 days. That's all. Be happy. Goodbye.
Parties are excused. You may step out.
She owes somebody for her breast enlargement.
My breast are already paid off, and I don't need his money because he never gave me any money. He didn't have any money, so I wouldn't go after him for money.
Case.
All parties in the matter of James versus James. Step forward, please.
28-year-old construction worker Cameo James is suing her brother, 27-year-old truck driver John James, and his wife, Celine. Cameo says her brother owes her for bail and loans to help him get back on his feet.
Miss James, this is your brother,
Yes, ma'am.
and this is his wife.
Yes, ma'am.
I will start with your story. About a year ago, you claimed that your brother and his wife moved to California to be closer to you and the family.
Yes, ma'am.
Sometime after he arrived, he was arrested for domestic violence on the complaint of his wife. You posted bail for him.
Yes, ma'am.
That money you want back.
Yes.
You claim that later he separated from his wife and he moved back to Arizona without your wife.
Yes.
And then decided to come back to California.
Yes.
And according to you, he called you and you again assisted him in paying for some stuff to get out of storage and wiring him some money.
Yes.
How much money did you wire him?
I've sent him money, wired him money 3 times.
Go ahead, let me hear.
I believe one time was 200, one time was 300, and the other time was 200.
You have no records of this?
Not the original Western Union records, I do not. But I do have a signed statement from my brother showing that we did have an agreement as to the amounts.
Oh, let me see that. And the bail was how much?
$1,015.
Okay. So according to this, he owes you $1,330. Is that right?
Yes, on that one, yes.
And what's the other money for?
The other $415 is for a storage unit.
Okay. Now I'll hear you.
Well, as far as the storage unit, my whole family knew that I'd gotten behind on my storage payment. I was about a month and a half behind. I sat down at her kitchen table, and she, without any kind of problem whatsoever, told me to sit down, and I was going to accept it no matter what. It was a gift. She handed me the receipt. I was in shock because, I mean, it was a $415 gift. She said, just call it an early Christmas present.
No, it was absolutely not a gift.
Well, tell me how it came about.
He was behind in his storage unit. They were getting ready to lose the storage unit, and he asked me if I would help him yet again, so I did.
No, ma'am.
Well, Miss James, let me tell you what I think. Since you have carefully memorialized every other debt that he owes you, why wouldn't you have put the $415 here as part of his loan?
Because it was a separate issue. That first set of debts was due to the travel money, wiring him the money back and forth. The storage unit was a separate issue.
There were a lot of different things. This wasn't just bail money. This was bail money, wire money, everything else. So if you had these things, and if it was just a loan, you should have put it down on here.
I should have.
You should have. But one of the things that you said in your complaint was that you gave him this money, but there was a condition. And the condition was that he not go back with his wife. And since he broke that agreement and went back with his wife, you now want your money back.
That's pretty much how it is.
Go ahead.
Part of me helping him was that he was supposed to get his life together. He was supposed to get his life on track. One of the on tracks was to leave Celine. She's bad news. She's trouble. She's caused him nothing but heartache and grief. I'm throwing away good money after bad, and he's going to return to her again.
I guess he is.
I guess he is.
Learn your lesson. But if this was part of a loan that you made, I must assume that you would have put it on the very carefully detailed memorialized loan. So I'm issuing a judgment in the amount of $1,330. Mr. James, you owe that to your sister, correct?
I guess I do.
A judgment for the plaintiff in the amount of $1,330. Thank you.
Thank you.
Parties are excused. You may step out.
My son has made some very poor choices,
Just someone who married in that they didn't like, and I'm here to stay.
especially in a wife.
She just doesn't fit in with their programming.
And it's not that she doesn't fit in, she doesn't try to fit in.
We'll just call it a day and see where things happen from.
Osvito, step forward, please.
50-year-old Eva Jones is suing her former friend, 37-year-old salesperson Melanie Azevedo, for child support costs during the time Melanie was in drug rehab.
Ms. Jones, according to your complaint, the defendant was a friend of yours.
Yes.
Who was entering a drug rehabilitation program and had a child, a daughter. And you took the child to live with you. And what this is about is you claim that she agreed to pay you for taking care of the child and she owes you for babysitting.
Yeah.
Okay. First tell me, how old is the child now?
Chandra's 13.
And how old was she when she came to live with you?
That's the 11 and 12.
Do you remember when she came to live with you?
It was middle of October of 1999.
So far, is that correct?
Yes, ma'am.
And did she live with you continuously from 1999 until she went back with her mother?
Yes.
When did she go back with her mother?
February 2nd of 2001.
Well, that's a long time. How long was your rehab?
I went in October, or actually the middle of November, and I stayed longer than 3 months because I felt like I needed more time in there. And then I got out in July of last year.
But you left your daughter with the plaintiff.
Well, can I say something? When I went in, I was going to leave both of my kids with my fiance here.
That would have been a mistake.
Well,
Go ahead.
CPS got involved and said I couldn't leave Chandra with Randall because she wasn't his biological daughter.
Right.
And we weren't married yet.
Right.
So Eva stepped up and said she would take her. And then CPS told Eva to apply for foster care fund. Okay, all these months, she's telling me she was getting foster care fund for Chandra.
Did you get any foster care money?
No, I was unable to get any type of money because I was not a blood relative.
Well, that's not true. Did you apply to become a foster parent?
I was a foster parent at one time, yes. And I didn't want to renew my license. Okay.
Was there any reason why you didn't want to renew your license?
What had happened was it was only supposed to be temporary, 90 days. All right, and like Melanie says, yes, she did feel she needed more time. So I said, okay, no problem. I'll handle it because I knew she was not working and knew the situation. She had gotten a job, I think about in April, being a demonstrator for, you know, like cleaning supplies and stuff like that. Then she got a better job.
When was this?
This was in about April or May.
Of what year?
Of 2000.
Is that right?
I worked at a demo place, and then the place I'm working at called me, so I stopped working for their place, and I started working for them since June until now. I'm still working.
And your daughter was living with Miss Jones?
That's right.
Okay, did you send her any money?
No, I was seeing Miss Jones, and every time I would try to take my daughter shopping or give Miss Jones money, she would tell me no because she was getting foster care fund for my daughter, so...
I never told you that.
Yes, she did.
Never told you that.
Yes, she did.
I never told you I was getting any type of foster care for Chandra.
Do you have other children in your home?
Yes, I do.
How many other children do you have in your home?
4.
Who are they?
2 of them are my kids, and the other 2 I have guardianship of.
And under those guardianship provisions, do you get state funds for those
Yes, I
children?
do.
So the likelihood of you getting foster care funds and opening up, now I understand, and opening up a file for a 5th child would not have been a good idea because they would have come in and they would have given you potentially a problem with regard to at least the 2 children over whom you have guardianship. So now I know why there were no foster funds coming in for your child into the house because there were state funds coming in for the other children. Do you understand?
I would have had to go and file for guardianship of the child.
I understand the whole drill. I don't know whether she does, it's not important. I understand the whole drill. I've been there many years. I got it.
Real cases, real people. Judge Judy. Eva Jones says former friend Melanie Azevedo owes her for child support. Melanie says Eva was paid through the foster care system.
Now, in your complaint, Miss Jones, you say that you told Melanie that you needed at least $50 a month for Chandra. But needless to say, Melanie never made any payment. So am I to assume that you made an agreement with her as to what amount she would give you for Chandra's care?
I called and I said, you know, Melanie, what your New Year's resolution should be is to give me at least $50 a month for Chandra.
And what did she say?
I can't do it.
So you didn't have an agreement. You said this was agreed upon.
No, we did. She said if she could, she would.
Okay. Just for my own information, do you work outside of the home?
I did during the Christmas holidays.
But other than that, you have no regular employment outside of the home?
No, I don't, because 2 of my children have medical problems. I have to take them to therapy every week, and it makes it kind of difficult, because one is bipolar plus ADHD.
You get additional funds for that child?
Yes, I do.
So am I correct, Miss Jones, that there was never a formal agreement between you and the defendant about how much money she would pay for the support of her daughter?
No, there was never a formal agreement.
So under what theory do you believe I can award you money? Certainly not on a contract basis.
Well, like I said, it's the first 3 months, it was a voluntary thing that was done. The other 13 months, she was supposed to have gotten herself together, got her own place, and come and got Chandra.
And she didn't.
Which she did not do.
She didn't.
In the meantime, Chandra, I put her in the charter school with my kids, had to buy uniforms. My children also take piano and violin. They're in the chorus. They go to summer camps. All this had to be paid for.
Where is your daughter now?
She's with my sister.
Why is she with your sister?
Okay. See, Chandra was really mad at me because I went into rehab. She didn't want me to go. And Ms. Jones told her that I abandoned her, which I didn't.
That is not true.
Just a second. Don't say anything bad about her. She watched your child for a year and a half.
Chandra will say that, Miss.
Listen to me.
She will.
Did your daughter want to go back to Miss Jones, or did she want to go live with her aunt?
She can't go to Miss Jones because the investigator already said if she goes back to Miss Jones, the investigator's going to arrest her personally.
Why?
Because when I got out of rehab, she wouldn't let me talk to Chandra. She wouldn't let me come and see Chandra. And if I did get to talk to her on the phone, she was sitting right there, and it was only for like 2 minutes, the longest, you know.
Are you back in a program now?
No, ma'am, I'm at Sober Living.
What is that?
That's,
You're not living in your own place. You're living in a different place.
Yes, ma'am. I'm trying to save some money so I can get on my feet to have my kids.
Ms. Jones, have you seen Chandra since she was taken from your home?
I had an opportunity to see Chandra Saturday.
How's she doing with her aunt?
Some days are good days, some are bad days. At one point, she tried to run away. Okay? It is not true how Ms. Azevedo is saying that I told her that she abandoned her. I did not tell Chandra that.
I didn't think that you did.
When Melanie would call and want to take Chandra shopping, I said, well, Melanie, you'd have to ask Chandra because Chandra's 13. Chandra can speak for herself. Chandra can say whether or not if she wants to go with you or not.
All right. Her mother has disappointed her for a very long time. Listen, Miss Jones, you can't get any money. You can't get blood from a stone. So I want you to listen to me. You didn't have an agreement with her about how much she was going to pay you. And I have a feeling, Miss Jones, that you didn't do this for money with regard to Chandra anyway.
No, I didn't.
I hope that you're comfortable that Chandra is okay with her aunt. Because
Chandra is not okay with her aunt.
Because if out of spite, out of some other reason other than a maternal feeling of wanting to do the right thing for the child, she didn't let her come back to you after she removed her from your house.
Because
That's a terrible thing.
She sent the police to the school, went to the school. Police yanked Chandra out of the school. Chandra's running up and down the street, okay? When Chandra went to her aunt, Chandra has been upset ever since, all right? Chandra has emailed me every time she asks Melanie, when am I going home?
You come to my job and ask me when she's coming home.
And that was it. I do that, Melanie, because when I talk with Chandra, Chandra's asking me, when can she come home?
When she says come home, you mean go home to her mother?
No, she means come home with me. And I tell her, I say, well, you got to ask your mom.
Sounds to me as this young girl is not having an appropriate voice.
No one has asked Chandra what she wants.
You have a case in the family court, Miss Acevedo?
No, ma'am.
That's really too bad. All right, Miss Jones, you can not collect any money from Miss Acevedo. Miss Acevedo is lucky she's able to negotiate herself. You didn't have a contract with her, right?
Right.
But I'll have somebody speak to Chandra. Thank you. Case is dismissed.
Parties are excused. You may step out.
She lied.
As it stands right now, Chandra is not happy.
But I guess that's how it goes.
I really did not do this for the money. It was just the fact to let Melanie know I wanted her to acknowledge her daughter.
I preferred my daughter to go somewhere else, but that's not the way it happened.
She's the one who asked me to keep Chandra. I did not volunteer. She asked me.
I'm not trusting anybody anymore.
Is suing her ex-fiancé, Moore Jones, for breaking a lease. Moore says he stopped paying rent when Leslie evicted him. He's countersuing for the return of his property.
Order. All rise. Quiet in the courtroom, please. Now, this is case number 97 on the calendar in the matter of Cook versus Jones. Parties have been sworn in. Judge, you may be seated. Sir, have a seat, please.
What clothes are those, Miss Cook?
This is wedding dress and two bridesmaids dresses that are like related to the case.
Not related to the case that I read. According to your complaint, you and the defendant, who had an on-again, off-again relationship, leased a house together. The relationship terminated. You feel as if he should be responsible for half the rent on the house.
Yes.
That's what your case is about.
Yes. I just brought these because...
Don't need them.
Okay.
Put them over there. They're distracting to me.
Okay.
Mr. Jones has a counterclaim, and he says that you have a whole bunch of furniture and property that belongs to him. You locked him out of the house, and he couldn't retrieve the rest of his belongings, even though he didn't live there full time. Right?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. You have a copy of the lease agreement?
Yes, ma'am.
Could I see it, please? When did you move in?
We moved in November 29th, 2000.
And the lease is a one-year lease?
Yes, ma'am.
When did you move out, sir?
Actually, I was put out in January. We got into an argument. I got put out in January. Then I came back because I thought it was going to work. And March of 2001, I came home to find my stuff outside and the door and the
That's
locks
not
was
true,
changed.
Your Honor.
Just a minute. So you're telling me she evicted you?
Yes.
That's not true.
Okay, go ahead.
That's
So I'll
not
hear-
true.
So now I'll hear you.
We moved into the home. We had gotten engaged previous to that in September. We moved in November. Mr. Jones left a week after that, stating that he wasn't sure that this is what he wanted to do. He needed to get himself together. So he left and went to stay at his parents' home. We talked off and on. He stated he wanted the relationship. He wanted us to get married. He came back in January.
Okay.
He left in March.
Well, that's what he says, but under what
yeah.
circumstances did he leave?
He didn't feel right. He didn't feel right. He felt that the relationship wasn't going well, that his world was crashing down around him. He needed to get himself right. And if he wasn't right, he couldn't be right for me. So that's when he left in March. He was gone approximately a week. He told me he was moving back in, and I just happened to see him in a pawn shop when I went to pay some bills with his truck full of some of his belongings. I went in there and asked him what was he doing. I thought you were coming home. He said, oh, I changed my mind. I need to be gone a little longer. When I got to the house, I noticed he had moved a lot of his things out, and I changed the locks to make sure that he didn't take anything that didn't belong to him, and I told him if he wanted to take anything else, he could do it while I was there, but when my children were not there.
Does that sound right to you?
No, ma'am. When she seen me at the pawn shop, I was there with my friend James. He was purchasing some jewelry for his wife. She seen me? Yes, she did see me.
Did she see you with any of the property that you had in the house?
No, the property's still in her house.
No, some of the property.
No.
Any of the property?
So,
No.
I mean, ma'am, that's not right. His
No.
truck was parked
But you
across
hadn't
the
been
street.
home.
No, I haven't been home.
You hadn't been home. For how long?
I had went to work.
Did you sleep there the night before?
Yes, I did.
You did?
No, he didn't.
Yes, I did.
He was gone a week, ma'am.
I believe he was gone a week.
He was gone a week, and he stated that he was going to come home.
That sounds right to me.
Called him on a Friday.
Your Honor, that's not true.
Didn't catch him the whole weekend.
Why do you
Happened
think
to
she
catch
threw
him
you
on
out,
Monday.
sir?
Excuse me?
Why do you think she threw you out?
Well, we
I
having
believe
problems.
you.
We having problems, like we said, and I came home. The doors were locked. She told me when I called her on my cell phone. She stated because after when I came home, all the stuff was out. A lot of my stuff was sitting outside. My friend James Rivers,
None of
I
your
was
stuff
out.
was ever. I'm sorry.
Was out. Okay, and when I got my stuff, I went to get my stuff. The doors was. When I went to try to get in the house, the doors was locked.
Is what you're telling me, sir, that from the time you moved in, other than this one brief time when you left back in maybe January, that you lived with her continuously?
I had left because we was having problems.
So you left?
Yes.
Well, that's what I want to know. When did you leave?
When did I leave? I left in January for approximately, I think it was 2 weeks, ma'am.
Were you there constantly in the month of February?
Yes.
Slept there every day?
Yes.
What about the previous December? Were you there every day?
No.
Why not?
Because we was still going through problems. I was trying to make sure everything was right within me and within this relationship because I've been through a bad relationship once before and I do not want to go through, didn't want to go through another bad relationship.
You know you are obligated under this lease.
I was trying to help her. She was in a financial bind. We was together. I had my own separate apartment. I helped her out. This is not only, this is a lease, but this is her house. This is her and her ex-husband's house.
Do you own this house?
I own 1/4% of the home, and when it was presented to me if we wanted to lease it and do a lease option, I didn't think it was a good idea, but Mr. Jones did.
Just a minute. What do you mean you own 1/4 of the home?
Well, it's a home that is actually owned by my ex-husband's parents.
Yes.
And during the time we were married, I owned 1/4% of it. When I vacated the marriage, my ex-husband took over the house.
Are you still on the deed as a 1/4 owner of the house?
I haven't seen the deed, ma'am. And I mean, recently, as far as I know, yes.
I'm not.
As far as I know, yes.
Miss Cook.
No, seriously, as far as I know, yes.
You were divorced. In the divorce decree, it says who owns what piece of property. So, as far as you know, you own
25%.
25% of
Yes.
this property. So if
Yes.
the property is sold, you get 25% of its value.
Yes.
So who do you pay the rent to?
Pay the rent to Mr. He is our landlord.
Well, he only owns a quarter of the property, according to you.
Yes. His parents actually did the loan, but when we were married, we paid for the house. Once the marriage was dissolved, Mr.
Why
Brian
are you
Cook-
paying him any money if each of you own the same percentage of the house?
Because we decided, Mr. Jones and I decided that we were going to take over the home and buy Mr. and his parents out of the home.
Well, you don't buy him out of the home if you're renters.
Well, we were going to buy the home at the end of the lease.
Why are you paying him any money if each of you own the same percentage of the house?
Real cases, real people. Judge Judy. Leslie Cook says ex-fiancé Moore Jones owes for breaking an apartment lease. Moore is countersuing for the return of his property.
Are you still staying in the house
Yes, ma'am.
with your 3 children?
Yes, ma'am.
Do you plan to stay in the house with your 3 children?
No, because of this arrangement, because Mr. Jones left, he is putting the home on the market, and we have to find another place to stay.
Okay.
Because I can't afford it. I cannot
Okay.
afford it.
All right. Well, you should tell your ex-husband that you can't afford to pay $950 for your quarter of the house. You should be able to cut that in half. Do you understand what I'm saying to you? If you own the same percentage of the house as your landlord, I don't understand why you would pay your ex-husband rent unless he was kicking back half the rent to you, because you each own the exact same thing.
Because the money that we put into the home was going to be set aside for a down payment.
Oh.
Down payment so we
Down
can buy
payment, so
we
he
can
was
buy
going
the
to take
home.
this $950 a month and put it aside so that the two of you could buy the house.
Yeah, not all 900. The portion that was over the mortgage, yes.
And how much is the mortgage?
The mortgage is
You
$666.
I suggest you find another place to live. Look, this is not a clean lease agreement. Since you each own the same percentage of property, I don't see why he should be responsible for paying off a mortgage on a house that he's not going to be living in. Now, what about his property that's there? What do you have of his property that's
I
there,
have
Ms.
pictures
Cook?
here.
Just tell me what you have.
His bedroom set, his couch and love seat, and coffee table with 2 end tables, and a entertainment center.
Is that what she has of yours?
In the garage, I have my kids' bikes, my kids' prices, pictures of me when I was a baby and my kids' pictures when they were babies. And have a few other things that's in the garage that I want out of the garage.
Okay. Are those things in the garage? Probably.
Yes, I haven't touched anything.
We have to set up a date and time when he can come and get his stuff. What's a good time for you?
Anytime, I'm open.
What's a good time for you?
Anytime after 5 o'clock. Oh, anytime after 5:30.
Do you want him to come with somebody to get his stuff? Would it be easier for you, or do you want somebody with you in the house?
Yes, I would like somebody there because I don't trust him because he threatened me this past weekend, so I don't want him
That
coming
is
over there
far
by
from
himself.
the truth.
Who do you want there?
I would prefer a police officer.
Well, can you get a police officer to accompany you?
I can call. I'm sure I could.
Okay. The court will prepare an order indicating that 5 days from today's date, between 5:30 and 7:30, you come and pick up your stuff. Goodbye.
That is our excuse. You may step out.
I don't think that it went fairly because this is something that we both did together, and now I'm stuck and I can't afford to keep the place. Now I have to look for somewhere else to live.
Learn how to talk and communicate, and it best, try to leave on good terms.
Year-old accounts receivable clerk Ruth Ackerman and her daughter, 18-year-old Crystal, are suing Crystal's half-sister, 24-year-old office manager Melissa Peart, and her husband Tyson Peart. Crystal says Melissa won't return her furniture.
What's your first name?
Crystal?
Crystal, this is your sister.
Yes.
You're the mother.
Yes.
You're the husband.
Yes.
Hers. According to your complaint, there came a time that for some reason you moved into your sister's home with her husband. Had she been living with you before?
My daughter?
Yes. How old were you?
I was 17 at the time. Oh, sorry, 18 in November. I just turned 18.
Why did you go and live with your sister?
I was living at a drug home at the time with my friends, and she suggested that would be the best place for me to
We're
be.
in a drug home.
Friends using drugs.
How long had you been living there?
For about a month and a half.
Where'd you live before that?
With my mother.
Why
and
did you
father.
move out of your mother's home?
Because I was a rebellious teen.
So your sister did a nice thing. She said, come and live with me.
Yes.
You lived there from November of 2000 until when?
To February.
And then she told you to leave.
Yes.
Why?
Well, we weren't getting along the end of the last month in February and January. Weren't getting along. She did kick me out about 5 different times.
Were you breaking the rules?
Yes.
This lawsuit says that when you left 2 things there. One was a chest and your bed.
Correct.
And you want those things back or their value. Your sister says she held on to them for about 6 months and then got rid of them, right?
Mm-hmm.
Where did you go after you left your sister's house?
I moved in with a friend into an apartment.
Why didn't you take your chest and your bed?
We couldn't fit it in.
Did you tell your sister that?
Yes.
What did she say?
She didn't say anything. She was very silent towards me.
You were angry with her?
I was, Your Honor. I gave her 7 days to move her stuff out.
And this chest and bed, were they in a room that you needed?
Yes, they were.
She doesn't have to keep your stuff forever.
A couple times I was trying to make arrangements with my friends to get a truck to go in there and get my stuff out. Unfortunately, I have no truck. I have a little car, can't fit a bed and cedar chest on top of it.
When did you sell it?
June.
Who did you sell it to?
I sold it to a coworker of my husband's and to a friend.
Okay, how much did you get for it?
Total together, I got 110.
Now, your daughter moved out in February.
Mm-hmm.
Did you call your other daughter in February or March and say, I'm going to come and pick up this bed?
No, we didn't.
Why not?
We actually did tell Crystal that she could store the stuff at our house. We kept telling her to go get the stuff.
And she didn't?
And she did not go get the stuff.
When you moved in with your sister, you lived there for November, December, January, 3 months. Did she support you?
Yes.
You weren't working?
No, I was looking for a job. I had a job when I was living there, and I did lose the job.
So your sister took care of you?
Yes.
So why would you want to sue her?
I just want my stuff back.
She doesn't have it.
Well, I want what she sold. That's my bed, my cedar chest. My cedar chest means a lot. I got it for my 16th birthday from my parents. I mean,
Oh, she sold both things.
it's valuable stuff to me.
She doesn't have them. She kept them in her house for months. You couldn't get a truck. Your mother wasn't talking to her directly. She was talking to you. She could have stored the stuff but never made arrangements. And I assume that you and your other daughter are not getting along for some reason. Is that right?
In the last couple of months, yes. But
that's
prior to her moving out and that, no. We were fine.
Your Honor.
Yes.
And the reason why this pretty much whole thing started, because I found my biological father, and when my grandfather passed away in May, he was asked to be a pallbearer, not my stepdad. So now the family's mad at me because I found my real dad, and they're just vindictive towards me right now.
She found her father 5 years ago. And I knew that 5 years ago, and I accepted that as long as she kept it to herself. Her father signed legal rights for adoption. He wanted nothing to do with her. And within my books of my feelings, he had no rights to her at all. I did tell her, that's fine, but you keep it to your side, your family, that's fine that you've seen your father. I did not need it in my life. I didn't have to have it in my life. My father that passed on was my father. She was only a granddaughter. A funeral is for the people who are alive, not dead. And my father wanted a quiet family funeral, and he was not my family. He might have been my daughter's, but he was not my family. So due to that, yeah, we got a lot of hurt out of it.
It's time for it to be over.
It is. And because of all this, Crystal decided to go get her stuff. I kept telling her to get it. Crystal was sick the day she made arrangements to go get the bed. I went with my daughter, Tracy, to go get it, and she was not home that day. So within 2 days, she had sold the bed, apparently.
But meanwhile, she took care of your daughter. And if the bad feeling that exists now between you and your daughter has to do with her finding a biological parent and involving him in your father's funeral, which is, I assume, what you are hurt about, you have to understand something. When you make choices, you made a choice. You had a child, and so did her biological father at that time, and I assume you were both much younger. But children have a natural curiosity. Children very often have a need to know their biological parents. Even if her adoptive father was wonderful to her, there is sometimes that need. And maybe it was wrong for her to involve her biological father in your father's funeral. I don't disagree with that. But it's over. It doesn't mar something forever. It doesn't mar that
Your Honor, It wasn't me involving him into the funeral. It was actually my grandfather's wishes. They were very best friends in the past, and within the last 5 years, he begged me to bring him around because my grandpa was on his deathbed. And I brought him around only under my grandpa and grandma's wishes, and it was my grandfather's wishes to have him there. It wasn't me. I had no idea.
Did you tell that to your mother?
I surely did.
I don't
Certainly
believe it. I'm next to my dad on his deathbed. I was about the last one to see him before he went into his coma.
Well, what about your mother? Did your mother tell you that that's what he wanted?
My mother didn't tell me until the day we was at the funeral home making the arrangements of who the pallbearers were. That's
but
when
did
she
your
told
mother
me.
tell you that that was your father's request?
She said, I don't believe her.
Then you don't believe your mother and you don't believe your daughter?
No.
Then you have a problem.
No, because in Christmas time...
No, then you have a problem.
My father said what Melissa was doing was wrong. So why would he found something different?
Maybe it's because that's what he thought you wanted to hear. Why would your mother, who I assume lived with your father for how many years?
30 years.
30 years. Why would your mother do something that she knew was exactly the opposite of what your father would want done at his funeral? In any event, she doesn't have the bed and chest anymore. She sold them. Did you tell your mother you sold them for $120?
I miscalculated. I apologize.
We have the bills of sale.
I have the
Can I
bill of
see them,
sale.
please?
I actually
And the
sold...
rental agreement that Crystal signed.
I have the bill of sale on both of them, and I actually sold them on the 11th of May and the 1st of June. I arranged for pickup on the 4th of June. After I gave Crystal, I talked to her, wanted to give her one last chance to make arrangements to come get it, but she didn't.
You have any problem giving your sister the $110 you got for her things?
I do.
Chris, Missy didn't sell the bed
I want to
for-
explain something to you. This is a non-case. $110 is what she sold the stuff for. You're suing for $600, which is ridiculous. It costs more than $600 to feed you, take care of you, provide you with a home for 3 months, which your sister did, so I have no idea what you're doing here. However, I don't think it's fair that you keep the money for her things, so I'm going to give her the $110. That's it. Do you understand? Instead of saying thank you, you sue her. Ridiculous. Goodbye.
What is our excuse, Miss?
It's really sad to know that they do this to their own family.
Do not want nothing to do with her. She can raise it.
35-year-old family support officer Monica Mathias and her husband, 40-year-old aircraft mechanic Joseph Mathias, are suing 39-year-old roofing contractor Glenn Matheson. The Mathiases claim Glenn's workers tortured their dog during a job at their house.
Order. All rise. Shh. Now, this is case number 29 on the calendar in the matter of Mathias versus Matheson. Parties have been sworn in, Judge. You may be seated. Folks, have seats, please.
Mr. and Mrs. Mathias, you hired the defendant's firm to re-roof your home.
Yes, ma'am.
And you claim that in the process of working in your home, they tortured your dog.
That's correct.
They entered your home without your permission, or someone entered
That
your
is
home
correct.
without your permission. Nothing was taken, but you were forced to put new locks on the doors and windows. And you want the defendant to return the price of all the roofing materials that you paid for the house and for your aggravation.
Correct.
Okay. The defendant said his people didn't do anything and he should be paid for his work. I assume you were paid for your work, is that right?
No, I haven't been paid at all.
You haven't been paid at all?
No.
Okay. We'll see. What was the total cost of the job?
Total cost of the job after the second invoice was $7,597.
Can I see it, please? Did you give him any deposit?
No, ma'am.
So you gave him nothing?
No.
Did this price include the materials?
Yes, ma'am.
It did?
Yes, it did.
So you have paid for neither materials nor the roof?
I've paid for the materials, yes.
Who did you pay for the materials?
His supplier,
How much did you pay for his materials?
$2,400.
And is the material money that you want back?
Yes.
Okay. When were you supposed to pay him the balance?
I told him that I'd pay the balance after a person of the court told me to do so on good conscience. I cannot, after what happened.
Okay. Now, you were not at home when this work was done.
I arrived home at 3 o'clock and 2/3 of the job was complete.
You have, I assume, a witness who saw what happened.
Yes, ma'am.
Are you the witness? I assume you're the witness. Step up, please. Tell me your name.
My name's Karen Dick.
Are you a neighbor?
Yes, I am.
How far away from the plaintiff's house is your house?
They live directly across the street.
Would you tell me what you saw on that day?
Yeah, typically I get up in the morning and I prepare dinner for the kids. So I got up and I noticed out the window that we have over the sink that the neighbors were having their roof done. I went on about my business, and then as I'm looking out the window, I was at the sink doing something. I noticed there was a sort of a large dog. It wasn't a big dog. It was tall, but it wasn't too big. I didn't really recognize it. I've only been in the home with my boyfriend about 8 months, so I hadn't really met the neighbors. I've only said hello to them. I noticed the dog was on Joe's front lawn, kind of in the middle of about 5 gentlemen who, it seemed like they were just kind of scurrying the dog. I didn't know if maybe the dog got out. They were concerned this dog's, interfering with their work, if they were nervous. A few minutes later, I came back to the sink. I now noticed 2 of the workers have hammers in their hand, and they're swinging at the dog. The gates open, so I realized that the workers must have let the dog out. So at first I think maybe they're just trying to intimidate the dog.
What kind of gate was it? Was it a fenced yard?
It's a fenced yard, yes.
And you saw that
it was open, yes.
Now, when you saw them swinging these hammers, none of the blows connected with the dog?
I did not see that, no.
Okay.
As I'm watching, though, the dog showing no aggression, so that wasn't the issue. And the dog is kind of scurrying back, and it's sitting back on its back legs. So it was surrendering. They could have easily put it back. At this point, now they're playing a game. The hammers are getting closer to the heads. They're laughing. They're smiling. They're going to hit that dog. So I'm screaming hysterically at the top of my lungs, please stop. What are you doing? And they get my attention, so I'm standing there to make sure they understand I'm standing there watching this. At this point, the 2 men walk away, and the dog's still there. I go back into the home, and my boyfriend's mother, who's about 82, comes into the house, and I'm trying to explain to her, because her English isn't great, I'm trying to explain to her what's going on, and I'm looking out over her shoulder. At this point, I see one of the 2 gentlemen with a rope in his hand starting to do this, and I know what he's going to do. And I'm watching this, and before I can react, he's already got the dog by the 2 back legs. He's yanked the rope, and by yanking the rope so hard, he forced the dog to flip over on the back side, and from the left side of Joe's house all the way to the front side, to the far right side of Joe's house, through the street, not on the side, but through the street, he drugged the dog on the dog's back.
Okay,
I'm sorry. Okay, I'm fine.
Was there any, when he did that to the dog, when he tied the dog's back legs, were they still right near the fenced-in yard?
No. Thank you. The gentleman that had the rope was standing in the street when he picked up the rope, because he's walking down.
So the dog had moved?
The dog really hadn't really moved. The dog was still in the grass, from what I recall. He's still kind of on the grass. He hasn't really gone anywhere. The gentleman takes the rope, and he's walking this way. So he had gone down, I don't know if it's truck, I couldn't see from my window, but he was coming back. And when he came into my view, that's when he had the rope in his hand, and that's where he took the rope to the dog's legs. As he dragged the dog through the street, that's when I ran back outside, and I wanted to make my presence completely known that I'm watching this and I'm seeing who's doing this. Because he's tugged the rope so tight, there was no way for the dog to break free for quite some time.
How did the dog
Just by wiggling and wiggling and wiggling. At this point, the dog was able to run up to the front porch, and as I'm walking, because I'm moving this way, to see what's going on, the dog, I could see him burrow into the corner on the porch to just be left alone. The gentleman who had the rope walks up and kind of goes down and starts going, trying to get the dog to be nice. And I'm thinking, if you've done all this to the dog and you're not scared of the dog at this point, how could anyone evenly conceivably say that you were just intimidated by this dog and that's why you did any of this to get the dog back in the backyard? There was no intimidation by this dog. So I'm just standing there. I'm not going to leave until I can see this dog put back in the backyard. Eventually, the man does sit there. He pets with the dog, and he picks the dog up, and he does eventually put the dog in the backyard, close the door. I go in the house, and I don't know what to do. Again, I don't know the neighbors that well. I'm thinking, should I call the police? I don't want to stir something up, call the police, and then have a problem with the neighbors. So I'm thinking it's better for me to advise them first. I have to go to work, so I call my boyfriend, tell him what's going on, to please make sure that they're aware of what happened, to let them know when I come home from work, I will fill him in on the details. After I'd done that, I noticed the truck was open and I saw the phone number, so I called the number to see if I could talk to the owner of the company to tell him to please come out and I would speak to him personally. When I called, the gentleman said that I'd have to leave my phone number, someone would have to call me back, and I wasn't comfortable with that. So I figure it's better for me to let things be until I get home to bring this out. And then that evening, that's when I went over and spoke to the Mathiases and told them what I had seen.
Real cases, real people. Judge Judy. Monica and Joseph Mathias claim employees of contractor Glenn Matheson tortured their dog. The Mathiases say the workers hogtied their pet.
You also claim, Mr. Mathias, that the house was open.
Yes, it was.
Do you have a witness to that?
I have a witness from our mail carrier that said that she delivered...
No, you don't have a witness. If you don't
you're correct. I do not have a witness. I have a letter from the mail carrier. Okay, the mail carrier stated to me...
You can't tell me what the mail carrier stated.
Okay.
You can't give me a letter. I have to see a witness testify. You see, testimony is powerful. I can make a determination as to credibility, etc. There's no question that there was no property taken from your house.
I don't believe there was, no.
Good. You weren't there that day,
No, I wasn't.
so you don't know what happened.
Correct. Just from what my foreman, Bernie, just told me.
Okay. What's Bernie's last name?
Ramirez.
Mr. Ramirez, would you step up, please? You were supervising these men that day?
Yes, ma'am.
Were you watching them at all times?
Yes, ma'am.
Did you see what happened with the dog?
Yes, I was there too. I was, when the dog came out, I
When
was
the dog
talking
came out of where?
from the yard.
How did the dog get out of the yard?
One of my workers go inside to collect the electric power extension cord, and the dog, he leave the door open, and then that's when the dog come out.
So one of your workers allowed the dog to get out?
Right.
Were you told, sir, that there would be a dog there?
Paperwork that I provide suggests that they keep the dog at a neighbor's house or inside the house.
That's not what I asked
No,
you.
I didn't know there was a dog there.
Okay. Go ahead. So one of your workers let the dog out.
So the dog come out, and I start playing on the front of the yard, and I was talking to him by the phone, and so I saw the dog running,
running in the front yard?
On the front yard, in and out. And then, so I'm scared because I said, well, maybe the dog is gonna go away. So I tell my workers. So two workers come out from the roof to try to put the dog inside, back in the yard. But I never saw nobody hit the dog, nobody touched the dog.
No, there was no testimony that anybody hit the dog with the hammer.
Yeah,
There was
and
testimony that they were motioning to the dog with the hammer. Did you see the dog being tied up by the back legs?
No.
Well, that happened because there is no question in my mind that this lady is telling me the truth. Any question in your mind that the neighbor is telling me the truth, sir?
I have no idea.
Well, I know, if you have no idea, I'm going to tell you that this lady is telling me 100% truthfully that the dog was tied up by the legs and pulled in the street. And if your worker, Bernie, didn't see that, then he didn't see everything. There isn't a reason in the world that this neighbor, who doesn't know these people from a hole in the wall, would come to court and lie for her and pick up the phone and call your company to tell your company.
I've got records that she didn't call.
Oh.
I get a log of every call that comes into my office.
That somebody records.
Correct.
So nobody recorded. Just a second.
No, either name or number. They don't care. They'll record a message.
She
Whatever the
wasn't
message
leaving her
is.
name and number.
Correct. She left a message. I show no message.
That's your problem.
Well,
That's your problem.
It states that she didn't call me.
She called you.
She didn't.
Oh, yes, she did.
I don't have record of it. Every call that
But
comes
just
into my
because,
office
no, listen to me,
gets
sir.
recorded.
Listen to me carefully. Don't get defensive. You weren't there. Fortunately, you weren't responsible for this. But I can think of no reason why this woman, who is new to the neighborhood, would be so upset about what she saw to go outside, get the number from your truck, come inside, place a call, speak to somebody who said to her, according to her, which I believe 100%, leave me your number, somebody will call you back. She said, I'm not leaving my number, thank you very much, and she hangs up, and nobody records it in your log.
She said that they took a message to get me out to the job site.
No, that's not what she said. That's what you wanted to hear.
That's what I
What
thought.
she said was she wanted somebody to come to the job site, but they said to her, give me your name, and your telephone number, and I'll have someone call you back. And she did not want to do that.
But she requested to leave a message. That message would have been taken and recorded
I didn't
and
say
sent to me.
Just to say, I heard what you said.
Correct.
You're not hearing what I'm saying?
I'm
I believe she called.
I don't believe she called.
Then that's your problem. Fortunately, I'm in charge. I don't know if Bernie is lying intentionally, or if he didn't see everything, or if he wasn't watching what was going on there. You think these people are trying to scam you out of a roof?
I believe they're trying quite a bit. Yes.
Really?
Yes.
No. I think that the men that you hired did not do the right thing that day, and they were very angry. Whether or not it translates into them suing you for $5,000, I don't know. But there's no question in my mind, after listening to Bernie and listening to the neighbor, that she is telling me the truth. Bernie, two things. He either did not see everything or he's lying. Because he did not put the dog back in the pen.
I've never known
He
Bernie
did
to
not
lie.
put the dog back in the pen, Bernie. She says somebody came to the front door, one of the men came to the front door and ultimately picked up the dog and put it back into the yard after they got finished doing the stupidity that they were doing to this dog.
I was told the dog was dragged back into the garage. Getting a lot of conflicting stories
Not
from
to
this
me.
side. Of course not.
Not to me.
I have.
Not to me.
I've received a number of different stories. And the dog doesn't get taken to the vet till 2.5 days, 3 days later, after I tell him, no, I'm not going to settle for this. I'm not going to take your word or your neighbor's word. I'm not going to give you financial benefit for this. I said, what do you want? He says, I want money from you. I own your company. I want a free roof. I said, I'm not going to give you a free roof. I'll sleep on it. He sleeps on it, comes back and says, I don't want to pay your labors. You know they're lying to you. You know anyone will lie in order to get paid. Well, to this day, they haven't been paid.
Two people attached to your company did the wrong thing that day with the dog.
It wasn't proven. You have
It's
one
proof.
witness.
Just a second.
You've got the
Prove it to-
vet who says there's nothing wrong with the
Just a
dog.
sec. I didn't say that the dog was injured, sir. The dog was maltreated. The dog was
She could have
maltreated.
misconstrued what was going on in some parts, yes.
No. This lady didn't come out twice screaming because she was misconstruing what was going on.
She was concerned about how scared she was. Call the police. The police could have been there and taken care of everything. Everything would have been solved right then and there.
It's a possibility. She could have done that. She
But
could
she
have called
didn't.
the police.
So there was
Give me a reason. Think of a reason.
Why she didn't call the police?
No, think of a reason why she would lie. I can think of a reason why Bernie would lie.
Why is that?
Because he was responsible. He was the foreman on the job. He was responsible ultimately for the performance of his men and
He's
what they
performed
did.
jobs
I'm
for me for 12
speaking.
years.
I'm speaking. He was responsible ultimately for the performance. And if he came to you and said to you, I did in fact see two of my guys who didn't know what they were doing, who were just sort of fooling around with the dog, and one did put a lasso around the legs, but meant to put it around the head to get it back into the house, or he didn't see everything, or he figured, say nothing. I can
Bernie's
think of a
not that
reason
type
for
of
him
guy.
to lie. I can't think of a reason for her to lie.
And I can't think of a reason for him to lie.
Well, I can. So, and that's the only thing that counts. So, you have to prove damages to me, sir. What were your damages? So far, you got a $7,500 roof for nothing.
Yes, ma'am. The hardware replacement for the door locks and
I'm
everything.
not, listen to me. I'm not entertaining your claim for any door locks.
Okay.
Because as far as I'm concerned, they didn't do anything with regard to going into your house.
Okay, I felt in good conscience I should pay the materials for the roof. I'm not going to pay him until an officer of the court tells me to pay him for the labor.
Well, that's not...
Or anything like that.
Yeah.
The pet clinic was $31.
Let me see the vet reports.
And all the material has not been paid.
I have the receipt for
Material
that,
from
Your Honor.
ALL has been paid, but not material from my yard. Not all material came from ALL.
Your countersuit is for $4,500 for defamation of character and lost wages. The defamation of character, I assume, has to do with these people saying things about your business.
Correct. Contacting the Better Business Bureau, threatening to contact the newspaper, and degrading my company.
They are entitled to do that.
Your Honor, he's also put a lien on my house, I believe.
I have every right to lien the house. I haven't been paid for
You're
for a job.
absolutely right. Is this lawsuit supposed to determine that?
No.
So then why am I hearing your countersuit?
It's not for the lien on the house.
Well, what is it for?
It's for loss of wages for my men for the day, loss
what
of
day?
work, for today, for being here.
For today?
Correct.
Forget it. Your counterclaim's dismissed. I believe that they have a perfectly valid claim against you because I believe that the people who represent your company did the wrong thing that day. First, they negligently let the dog out of the yard. That, at least, we know from Bernie. And after that, Bernie told them to go and take care of it. Then one of them dragged the dog across the property, not even the property, not even the grass, but into the street,
With
in
no
the gravel.
damages to the dog.
What?
No injury to the dog. After all this horrendous treatment of the animal.
Judgment for the plaintiff and the amount requested, $5,000. You're pretty thick.
Parties are excused. You may step out.
Bernie assured me it didn't happen, so I called him back and said, I'm sorry, I don't know what your neighbor's talking about.
Makes you wonder what kind of job they did on the roof, not to mention how they mistreated a member of our family.
No injury to the dog, no harm to the dog, care saved by a neighbor.
The dog is nervous. She's afraid of loud noises now.
He was more concerned in what I was going to pay out before he took his dog to the vet.
Judge Judy was very insightful.
Yesterday on Judge Judy, the plaintiff, Andy Heath, claims she was sexually assaulted by the defendant, S. Lyle Marple, while riding with him on his jet ski.
Before we took off, he put his hands on my thighs, and I thought that maybe that's just the way he wanted to hold on. But he pulled his hands up higher into my bathing suit, and he burst himself inside me.
The defendant denies the plaintiff's allegations.
She had nothing to lose and everything to gain.
Like what?
Money, because she was going to sue. More drugs, because she could go to the doctor. So she had the sympathy of everybody feeling sorry for her about this thing that happened, which didn't happen.
And his witness thinks he has the proof.
We have a videotape showing that she had a wonderful time through the whole party.
Now, the conclusion.
I want to see the video. You have it?
Yes, we do.
Let me see it.
I can explain scenes that I see.
Are there scenes of the plaintiff?
Yes.
After this incident?
Yes.
All right, let me see after the ride.
You're doing great.
Oh, hi.
Oh, hi. Come on, pose a little bit.
This is good music, Ron.
Oh, you like that, huh? Yeah. Little third world. It's the most beer I've ever seen Stanley drink. How you doing, Stan? You having a good
Is this
time?
before or after the ride?
This is after the ride. If you can see Stanley where he had his vest on, his T-shirt's still wet. It's dry where the vest covers his shirt. But this is after the
Now,
ride.
is that, just a second, is that Stanley dancing around?
That's Stanley dancing around.
All right, that's Stanley dancing.
And that was the defendant.
Was that her dancing?
She's floating in and out.
Dancing, baby. Come on, do the dancing, baby.
I'm talking to my husband, Your Honor.
Do the dancing, baby.
Come on, Pam, do it.
If you notice what's going in the background, Your Honor, this gentleman's wife was attempting...
You didn't do it.
Hey, Pam.
Pam almost pulled Stan's pants down, but she chickened out at the last minute.
Do the gorilla. You do the see who can dance.
Okay. Mr. Heath, it did appear that your wife was not, at least overtly, traumatized. This was after the incident.
Yes,
I believe she was in shock, Your Honor.
You're not an expert.
That's true.
You are not a psychiatric expert.
That's true, Your Honor. I've been with my wife for 12 years, and I know her very well, and I know the difference of how she was feeling before and after the ride.
Well, you couldn't tell that she was feeling badly afterwards.
I could tell that the people that we normally hang out with, she totally avoided.
You couldn't tell from looking at that your wife had just suffered a traumatic event.
That's true.
Is that a fair statement?
Yes, it is.
I didn't want him to know, Your Honor.
It may be, but you have the possibility of just withdrawing at the party and sitting down, sitting, having a drink, not saying anything, but you were participating at the party
I was
at this.
flying all over the place.
You were
Your
flying
Honor.
all over the place. Had you had anything to drink before you went on the Sea-Doo?
Yes, Your Honor.
What did you have to drink?
Snow Creek wine.
What is that?
It's like a Boone's Farm. And I was in the pool so much, I just come back and put ice in it.
Okay, so how many drinks did you have?
One. And also this gentleman's wife and I went to the store to buy a bottle of Malibu rum. And I had a little bit of Malibu rum in with that, but then again, I just kept putting ice in it. I'm not a drinker, Your Honor.
Okay. What about you, sir? How much did you have to drink?
I had like a beer or two, and then later on I had a few more beers.
Did you drink anything other than beer?
No.
Anything else you want to say?
Yeah, at the end of the party, it was strange because I've really had an enjoyable time with these people, And at the end, after it was that diffusing, she gave me a kiss, my wife a kiss, Stanley a kiss. My wife she spent 80% of the time with this lady in the pool, and it's on the tape. You see them that they're together all the time. My wife has things to say.
I'd like to
It also says in here that she needed to be on medication for the rest of her life. And well,
sit down.
All right, but Pam.
Yes.
I did spend most of the time at the party with Andy, and we did have a really good time. We drank quite a bit. The bottle of Malibu rum that she did bring, I had one glass, and I know that it was empty at the end of the party.
That's incorrect.
And I'll admit that we were both drunk at the party. When she left, she was very drunk. Her whole demeanor throughout the party with her, she didn't act like anybody that had anything happen to them. I am an RN, I work in an emergency room, and I do take care of women who are sexually assaulted or raped.
Did you see any marks or bruises on the plaintiff?
No, I never saw any marks or bruises, and also on the video I never noted any marks or bruises on her.
Anything else you want to tell me?
Yes, one other thing. Stanley did obtain her medical records, and it does show that she has been on psychiatric drugs and sedatives for years before this incident. Also has a history of psychiatric problems. It's right there on the paperwork.
What do you take Paxil for?
I was taking Paxil because my mother had 29 surgeries in less than a year.
Well, Paxil is a psychiatric drug. You know that?
Yes, I did.
Pay attention.
Yes, ma'am.
When did you start to take Paxil?
About 3 years ago.
So your answer to me that you were not taking any medication, listen to me. Your husband's answer.
Yes, ma'am.
So you telling me that your husband didn't know that you were taking Paxil?
Yes, you did, ma'am.
I don't even know what Paxil is for.
Lorazepam, what do you take that for?
For sleeping. Not any longer.
But you did then?
Yes, ma'am.
When was your last prescription?
Approximately a year ago.
This happened on the 19th of August, 2000?
Yes, Your Honor.
Did you go to the doctor on the 2nd of August?
I don't recall, Your Honor.
Did you complain to the doctor at that point that you had a rash on your back, some on your legs, and also in the vaginal area?
No, not in the vaginal area. I don't remember that. I do remember
That's what the doctor reports.
Okay, well then
Ms.
that is
Heath.
possible, Your Honor.
That was on the 2nd. He increased your Paxil to 40 milligrams, is that right?
I believe so, yes, Your Honor.
You also called July 27th, indicating that you were going out of town to take care of your brother and you'll run out of your Paxil. And when they called to check at the pharmacy, they indicate that you had 4 refills for Walgreens.
Yes, Your Honor.
So you had enough.
Yes, Your Honor.
You were also taking sleeping pills before.
Yes, Your Honor.
At some point, did the doctor tell you that they wanted to wean you off these sleeping pills?
I wanted to wean it off.
Doctor reported sometime prior to this that you wanted some additional medication, and the doctor explained that that would be a fraud. Explained to patient that she'll need to be seen before we can refill the lorazepam. Patient states she'll see what she can do to get in.
Yes, Your Honor.
Doctor reports that you started to take some medication due to an attempted suicide in September of 1999 owing to stress. Did you attempt suicide in 1999?
No, Your Honor. That was September of 2000, Your Honor.
September of 1999.
No, Your Honor.
Is what this report indicates. You take a lot of Paxil and a lot of the other medication, according to this report.
Not anymore, Your Honor.
Wow.
I'm on different medication.
What kind of medication are you on?
I'm on trazodone and Effexor. Trazodone is for sleep, Effexor is for antidepressants.
But that wasn't as a result of
And
this
Xanax.
incident.
Yes, Your Honor.
Real cases, real people. Judge Judy. Andy Heath says former friend S. Lyle Marble sexually assaulted her at a party. S. Lyle says Andy is lying.
There's a lot of information here. Is there anything else that you want me to read?
My answer to her complaint.
Well, that's self-serving, sir. Your answer is self-serving.
Your Honor, may I?
Yes.
Her and I did become very good friends. We have a friend in common. She made the interest in the fact that she enjoyed drinking Malibu rum, as did I. The Malibu rum was not empty, Your Honor. I still have it in my refrigerator.
Whether
as
it
of
was
this
or whether
day.
it was not, madam, are you given specific instructions when you take Paxil with regard to any alcohol?
Yes, Your Honor.
Are you allowed to have any alcohol if you are taking medication?
No, and I drink wine.
You are not supposed to have any alcohol if you are taking Paxil. Is that right?
Yes.
And you were, in fact, taking Paxil, as well as other medication, on this day.
But that is not instructed on the Paxil bottle.
Miss Heath.
It is on Effexor.
Miss Heath, one of the problems is that when I asked that specific question before, whether there was ever any indication that you had a problem before this, your husband said never a problem, you don't take any medication, there was never any psychotropic medication, nothing. And so that would lend certain credibility to your statements that as a result of this incident, you became so traumatized that you now have stress, can't sleep, you're on medication, you know, all that goes together. But all that happened before. Your husband was not honest with me when he...
Your Honor,
Mr. Heath.
I'm not trying to be misleading.
Well, you were misleading to me. Your wife has been on heavy-duty medication for a long time. You know, this is a very, very difficult matter for anybody to handle in a relatively short period of time. There is no medical evidence of sexual assault. So I have to listen to the two testimonies, and I have to find to my satisfaction by a preponderance of the evidence that this did in fact occur. My initial reaction from hearing your story was that maybe everybody's a little drunk and he got a little out of hand. Pay careful attention to me. Don't interrupt me. That's why you ask questions, because before you find somebody in effect guilty of this kind of horrific experience, you have to be really satisfied. And as a judge and as a woman, I find that this kind of experience can be, and to most women would be, very traumatic. The response to that trauma would be to say to your husband, get your bathing suit, we're leaving. And then I see a tape, Miss Heath, of you apparently partying afterwards. I would have to have some pretty substantial psychiatric testimony from a treating therapist that would indicate to me that due to this kind of stress, you may have been suffering a post-traumatic stress even during this period of time, which so altered your mood that would permit a video to be taken of you seemingly laughing and having a good time, encouraging your husband to dance. But I don't have that. Listen to me. I don't have that expert testimony.
Yes, ma'am, you do.
No, I don't.
Yes, you do.
You're not paying attention.
I'm sorry.
I don't have what your therapist says happens here because I cannot examine your therapist.
Yes, ma'am.
I do not take this as fact.
Yes,
what I take as fact are your medical records that indicate that you were prescribed over a long period of time serious medication. You complained for a long period of time that as a result of stress you couldn't sleep. You asked the doctor on more than one occasion to provide more medication than the doctor would provide because he says you already have enough. You got that prescription filled 2 days ago. I'm not going to refill it again. That's objective data from the medical records. The statement from your therapist, Ms. Heath, is self-serving, and without that therapist here, I have a difficult time making a judgment, quite frankly, viewing the tape, looking at these medical records, listening to your husband, plus the fact that you decided, whether on advice of your therapist or not to take a polygraph test, despite the fact that he took one. And his polygraph test did not vindicate him, according to the detective's report, because I don't have the polygraph here either. It didn't say you did it. It didn't say you didn't do it. It said some of your answers were deceptive. But it didn't even say that you had declined to take a polygraph test.
She didn't decline. She offered to.
She didn't take it.
Right.
Because if she had taken it, they would have said she took it.
I have something very important to address to you.
Go ahead.
This tape that they have shown was before the ride, Your Honor, not after the ride.
Really?
Yes, ma'am.
Go ahead.
After the ride, I went over to make sure that I could hold myself together. And I gave him 5. I said, give me 5 to make sure I could hold myself together. And then he was nowhere around me until I was ready to leave, and he was sitting in my seat.
It was after the ride. In fact, if you look at the whole tape, there are parts in there where you can tell. At one point, he asked what time it was. It was like 6:30. You can kind of tell throughout the tape, you know, where he went and got his jet ski and took it back, and especially with him being wet. He only went out in the water. He never went in the pool once. He was only in the water twice. When she got back, we jumped in the water a couple times after that. She was having so much fun. We ran on the dock.
He walked
we
right through the
jumped
great
off.
next to where I was-
Mr. Heath.
We jumped off the dock and swam to the shore. We were having a great time.
Before the ride.
No, that was after the ride. And if she was assaulted, why would she let a little 13-year-old girl go on the boat right after
She's
him?
honored to.
Don't ask them a question.
May I answer that?
No.
Your Honor.
Shh. Listen to me. Accusing someone of what I consider a vicious attack is serious business.
Yes, it is.
And I have to be totally satisfied
Yes.
that this incident occurred as you indicate.
Yes, ma'am.
Because we're not talking about the money judgment that you're requesting so much,
No, ma'am.
but we're talking about making a statement publicly that this man violated you.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. In order for me to do that, I have to feel totally comfortable, Ms. Heath. So what is the objective evidence that I have? The objective evidence is that you were taking very serious medication for a substantial period of time before this happened, medication that should not be taken in conjunction with alcohol. You decided, for whatever reason, not to get your husband, which would have been a totally reasonable response, immediately afterwards and say, let's get out of here. We're getting out of here. I'm just talking to you about objective data. Do you understand? The objective data is I have a report here that indicates that you started to take medication, and you've been taking medication for stress for a very long time, and in your own hand or in the hand of another professional, it does say that you did in fact attempt suicide, something that you didn't tell me. I have the defendant who probably, based upon his own statements and based upon the statements of his witness, wasn't too bright, because if he takes women on his ski-doo, what he does is he either holds on to the back of the jacket, puts his hand around his waist, and not be stupid, and grab them onto their waist where you might put your hands in and around their thigh area. That isn't smart. Do you understand? Not smart. That does not necessarily make you a sexual deviant. Okay. He says he did not do this. Your mother says she observed certain bruising on your thighs. The medical records indicate that the doctor who you saw during the month of August noted redness.
But not scratches.
There is no medical evidence of scratches, madam. If you went to the doctor immediately after this incident, which you did not do, and the doctor had looked at you and saw nail scratches, nail marks, something.
Ma'am, when I went to the doctor, he's known me so long, being so strong with my mom, that he didn't even look, he didn't even check. He just walked out of the room.
That may be. But this is the objective data that I do not have, which is probably why the police department there chose not to prosecute him.
Ma'am.
There was a prosecutor that wanted to.
The state.
He kept having it postponed, and they put somebody else in there who dropped the case.
It's been postponed and withdrawn for 7 months.
What I'm telling you is, when you have this kind of an assault, especially if you have this kind of an assault, and there was some indication that there was another child, a 13-year-old, who was not a witness here today, so I don't know that, was also inappropriately touched, then the prosecutors proceed. You may be 100% truthful. I, as a judge, have to deal with objective data. And based upon what I have seen, I cannot in good conscience label this man a sexual deviant. I cannot. Only you folks and your consciences know what happened that day. That's all.
Parties are excused. You may step out. Out the back door to your right.
I just hope she gets some help because she really needs some.
Well, I really respect Judge Judy, and I'll still respect Judge Judy. But that man got away with what he got away with me and another young girl.
She had nothing to lose. She got sympathy from everybody,
My mother's been through hell.
and she got more medication.
It was very hard for me to be strong for my mother.
I don't believe her at all.
Those two people lied.
Just by looking at her medical record, she's a professional drug seeker and she has psychiatric problems.
The big guy upstairs will get his. He'll get his from him.
She lied to everybody at work. Her mom, her husband.
What comes around?
McKee and her daughter, 10-year-old Rosemary, are suing 26-year-old student Damian Granados. Kimberly says Damian's pit bull bit her daughter on the leg.
Order. All rise. Yeah, this is case number 238 on the calendar, the matter of McKee versus Granados. Parties have been sworn in, Judge. You may be seated. Ma'am, have a seat, please.
Mrs. McKee, you have a daughter.
Yes, ma'am.
The defendant has a pit bull, right? Excuse me, Bird. Could you ask this young lady to either get a sweater or to get out? It's a courtroom.
A little improper decorum. You can find a sweater, you can come back in.
Now, it is your complaint, Ms. McKee, that the defendant's pit bull bit your daughter. The defendant does not deny that his pit bull bit your daughter, but he said it was her fault.
Correct.
Okay. Tell me your first name.
Rosemary?
Rosemary, do you remember when this happened?
Yes.
Tell me when.
It was July 20th at approximately 12:30.
In the afternoon?
Yeah.
Would you feel more comfortable talking to me up here, or you want to stay near your mom?
There.
Come on.
Okay.
Okay. Drop your papers. Want me to hold them for you?
Yeah.
Okay. Now, July 20th, where were you?
I was riding my bike across the street from my house by the thrift store wall.
And did you see the defendant and his dog?
Yeah.
Tell me what happened.
I was riding my bike and then I stopped. He was with a painter that was painting the wall, and I stopped and asked the painter what he was painting, and he said he was writing.
He was writing?
Yeah, he was writing. And then they both started laughing, and then so I started riding my bike and I pedaled like 3 or 4 times, and then the dog like went out and grabbed me.
Where did the dog grab you?
Right here on my leg.
On your leg?
Yeah. And I fell off my bike and I was screaming. They pulled the dog off of me. And
The defendant and the painter?
yeah, and another guy. And then he asked me if he wanted to carry me, and I said no. So I hobbled to the I hopped on this leg to the closest stairs by a building, and I sat there screaming and crying, and my friend went to go get my mom, and my mom was like really worried and stuff, and he kept saying he's sorry, and then all these people were watching, and they were like, what happened? And he said that I was trying to touch the dog and get close to him and like petting him and stuff, but I didn't even look at him or anything.
Did you have to go to the hospital?
Yeah, he called the ambulance on his cell phone.
He did.
Yeah.
Did the ambulance come?
Yeah, in like 45 minutes.
How many stitches did you need?
26.
Do you have a scar on your leg?
Yeah.
I would like to see it, so I'm going to come down.
Okay.
Unless I can see it from here. That's quite a bad scar.
Yeah.
Did you see the scar on her leg?
I haven't seen it, no, ma'am.
Why don't you go stand next to your mom?
Okay. And there are the pictures when I got stitches if you want to see them.
Why don't you take a look at her leg? Because you should be able to see what I see. Okay, Mr. Granados, I read your answer. Why don't you tell me your version of what happened?
It's pretty much the same story, Your Honor. Besides that, she did try to pet the dog.
How did she try to pet the dog, Mr. Granados?
He was confined. He was on a leash.
Yes.
A 2-foot leash, which I was holding him the whole time. He was laying down next to the wall in the sidewalk, and she drove her bike up to both of us.
Where you were standing with the painter. By the way, what was the person painting?
A mural over some gang graffiti.
So she drove up and she said to the painter, "What are you painting?"
Correct.
Did anybody answer her?
I believe my friend answered her yes.
And what did the friend say?
A mural.
Is that what he said?
He said it's writing.
Writing.
Yeah.
At what point did she attempt to pet the dog?
Prior to that, she had rode her bike back and forth. So I really don't know exactly how many times she rode by, but around right after she had talked, it happened really quick.
No, I'm trying to picture this in my mind, sir. She's on her bicycle.
Okay.
She's a little girl on her bicycle.
Correct.
You see, if she was attempting to pet your dog, then the bite would have been on her arm. If she was on her bike, pedaling away, that is consistent with the injury that she has, because it's a bite mark to the back of her leg. So you explain to me how she was bitten when she attempted to, much better. Sit down.
I'll explain
When
it to you.
she attempted to pet your dog, explain to me how she was bitten.
Okay. She was sitting on the bike. She reached over her bike to pet the dog. Her leg is closer to the dog than her arm is. She never got a chance to actually pet the dog. I had him on the leash, though, so I pulled him away like, no, you know, because I was surprised that she was actually trying to pet the dog.
Why?
Because she didn't know the dog. She didn't know if it's a, I have a,
Okay,
it's a
so
big
you
dog.
pulled the dog away.
I pulled him away.
Right, and then she went to pedal away.
No, that's not how it happened.
Well, if you pulled the dog away, how did she end up with that scar on her leg?
Like I just said, when she reached over to pet the dog, he snapped at her. He bit her.
Good. Whose fault is that?
I believe it's her fault because she shouldn't have been trying to pet the dog. I had him on the leash. So
I don't believe she was trying to pet the dog, sir.
Well,
I don't believe you. Don't believe you this much.
Real cases, real people. Judge Judy. 10-year-old Rosemary McKee says she was bitten by Damian Granado's pit bull. Damian says Rosemary startled the dog.
She's on her bike. The injury that she sustained is totally consistent with the story that she tells, that she stopped, asked a question, and you and your friend laughed, and then she was pedaling away. She was pedaling away, and your dog just went for her leg. I don't buy this leaning over to try to pet the dog. If she's leaning over to try to pet the dog, that dog would have bit her on the arm, her hand, not the back of her leg. It's totally inconsistent with common sense. Were you there?
No.
So what are you doing here?
I came to pick the dog up. I'm a roommate.
You came to pick the dog up from where?
From the scene.
So?
I had called her because I had called the animal control people right after I called the paramedics.
Yeah.
Because I was scared, you know. I was scared. I didn't know what to do with the whole situation. So I called the paramedics first, and I called the animal control, and they said, "Come remove the dog." You know?
I mean, she didn't try to torment your dog with a stick. She didn't kick your dog.
No, she didn't.
Even if I believed you, which I don't. She didn't try to torment, she didn't kick, she didn't scream, she didn't yell, right?
No, I think the bike actually is what scared the dog.
Well, that's what's in the street, bicycles, cars, things. You know.
Yeah,
if you have a pit bull, then you get a muzzle. If you have a pit bull, you get a muzzle. Aren't there other breeds of dogs that perhaps you might be interested in?
Well, the animal control people said it's not safe to have your muzzle on a dog because it restrains his breathing, and he's never had any prior attacks, so I had never...
Now he has had one. She has to be compensated. She's got a scar that's going to last for the rest of her life.
Correct.
Yeah? So
Correct.
What kind of compensation did you offer her? Did you offer to pay her medical bills?
Yes, I did. I called the mother after. I gave her all my information, my phone number.
Is that true?
No, ma'am. He has never called me.
You mean from the time this incident happened in July, and your daughter was taken away by ambulance, he has not called you to inquire as to how she is?
Yes, Your Honor. He has never called to any concern at all, other than the fact that his pit bull might be put to sleep. That was his only concern.
Well, how did he relay that concern to you?
He was just about crying while he was on the cell phone while we were waiting for the ambulance.
After that, after your daughter was taken away by ambulance?
He has never called.
Still have the dog?
Correct.
I assume you spoke to a plastic surgeon?
Yes, ma'am.
When does the plastic surgeon indicate that they may be able to make some headway with regard to correcting the scar that she has?
Well, that would be 6 months to a year, which would include scar revisal, which would include removing the scar 3 times and sewing it back together.
Why in the world, Mr. Granados, would you keep a dog that you know is capable of inflicting this kind of injury over, if I believed you, which I don't, over a child coming over just to pet your dog? Why would you keep a dog like that?
Prior to that, I did not know he was capable of any type of injury. We have kids at our house, and
You have kids at your house?
Correct. And
How
to
many
this
kids
day,
do you have at your house?
Well, just her nephew comes over once or twice a week.
You're an idiot. Judgment for the plaintiff and the amount requested, $5,000. That's all.
Parties are excused. You may step out.
The police would not come because the dog was leashed.
Honestly, I'm devastated. If that happened to my nephew, if the dog ever did that.
The animal department would not come because after the attack, the dog was put into a car and contained.
I mean, they had somebody from the city come to the house, and they said the house was safe and secure.
And they interviewed the dog.
Judge Judy has finally let my daughter Rosemary have a little justice.
25-year-old outreach coordinator Monessa Fong is suing her ex-boyfriend, 33-year-old counselor Albert Chung, for injuries she received during a sexual assault.
Order. All rise. This is case number 112 on the calendar in the matter of Fong versus Chung. Parties have been sworn in. Judge, you may be seated. Sir, have a seat, please.
Ms. Fong, you tell a very, very aggressive story about actions taken by the defendant, who was then your boyfriend. For some reason, which I'm sure you will explain, you decided that you didn't want to prosecute this case criminally. Is that right?
Yes.
When did this incident take place?
January 27.
Tell me what happened on January 27th.
Defendant Albert Chen, he discovered that I was going to display clothes at a ballroom dance school, and he became very jealous, and
he went with you.
He insisted he has to go. While we were there, he took me into a storage room. He started screaming at me, calling me names. He also attempted to burn my clothes and burn my face using a lighter.
In the storage room?
Yes, he tried to injure me and burn my face.
You managed to get free, according to your complaint, from the storage room. Is that right?
Yes, there are people there, and people knocked on the door. He left, and when I tried to leave, he was there behind my car.
And he got into the car with you?
Yes, so I gave him a ride home. While I was driving, he blew anger at me. He punched in the windshield and tried to break the window. He also pulled the handbrake, tried to stop the car, and he yelled at me and tried to grab me out of the car. He said he wanted to die with me. And there are policemen behind us, and they took him out of the car.
And you were actually taken into custody. Is that right, sir?
No, the police took me out because I have an open can of the beer, and then they thought I was drunk. But
Where did they put you, Mr. Chung?
On the street.
They left you just on the street?
On the street.
You left, is that right?
I told the policeman I was very scared. I do not want the defendant to be in my car again. The police officers told me I could file a police report. And
did you do that?
Yes, I went to a local station and filed a police report.
That night?
That night. And an emergency restraining order was granted to me that night.
And what happened when you got home?
When I stepped into my house, it was close to 2 o'clock in the morning. I heard defendant Albert Chen leave a message on my recording. He sounded angrily on the phone. He threatened me to pick up the phone. I did not pick up the phone. 15 minutes later, the doorbell rang. I knew it was him, so I did not answer. And I tried to call 911. And defendant called in my phone at the same time, so I could not dial out. He threatened me to give him $35 for the taxi fare.
For the cab fare?
Yes. I refused, but he threatened that he'll make a scene out of it and wake up my neighbors. So I brought the money out and gave it to him. He forced his way in. Once he's inside, he grabbed me and threw me on the ground. He got on top of me. He twisted my wrist. He injured my spine and my joint. And he attempted to rape me by pulling down and ripping my pants. And I brought my evidence of the ripped and torn pants.
I don't have to see them.
The elastic was broken.
Go ahead.
And I started screaming, and he stopped. For the rest of the night, he abused me by threatening me to drain the toilet cleaner. He forced me to smell lighter gas. He threatened me that if I reported the police, he would kill me.
How did it come about that he left your apartment?
My mother called about 9 o'clock in the morning. The first time he did not let me answer the phone. I said, if I don't answer, my mother will call the police. Then he let me answer the phone. My mother said she was coming over. So then the defendant left. And I called the police and made the second police report. But I told the police officers that I do not want him to be arrested because I was too scared that this guy will retaliate.
Let me see the police report.
This is the first police report. This is the second one. And the bottom is stated that I asked the officer to not arrest the defendant.
Why?
Because I was too terrified.
Then why do you come to court now, Ms. Fong?
Because it's 4 months after, and also putting him in jail is very intense, that he will become very angry and retaliate. I also have the photos of the policeman took on me. It was taken on my face that was injured, also on the damaged carpet, on the damaged closet door, and the damaged portable closet, and also the burned clothes. The policeman also took his lighter and burned the clothes for evidence.
All right, Mr. Chung, I have a couple of questions for you, sir, because I've read your answer. Now, there is no question that you did, in fact, pull the emergency brake. Is that right?
Yeah, I did pull the emergency brake, the handbrake, yes. I want to mention why I need to pull the handbrake, because I told her to stop the car because I feel we were arguing in her car and she drives pretty dangerous. That's why
I read your story. That's not a reason to pull a handbrake.
Okay.
She hadn't been drinking that night you had. You had an open can of beer, is that right?
Right.
Okay. So the police took you out of the car. And how long did you stand out on the street waiting for a taxi cab?
Around like an hour and a half.
And you were very angry at that time.
Yes, I was angry.
Then why did you go to her house that night?
Because
there's no question that you went back to her house. Is that right?
Right.
Now, you didn't live with her.
I did not live with her.
Then why did you go back to her house after being very angry? Listen to me, Mr. Chung, because I'm very smart. You tried to get out of the car. She wouldn't let you out of the car, according to you. You were so frightened of the way she was driving erratically that you pulled the emergency brake on the car, according to you. Is that right?
Yes.
The police came and rescued you. Is that right?
No,
they rescued you by getting you out of the car. Is that right?
Right, just getting me
That's
out.
according to you. They rescued you by getting you out of the car. Now you're rescued. She can't hurt you anymore with the car. So, quiet.
Excuse me.
I'm speaking.
Okay.
So you're standing outside it for an hour and a half, and it's very late at night.
And
About
very
midnight?
Cold. And midnight.
And very cold.
And really, really cold.
And you don't live with her.
No.
Then why don't you go home?
Because...
No, look at me. Why don't you go home?
Because I was angry, and I heard she told the police I'm making trouble on her, and I was angry. I just wanted to go to her home.
So you were angry.
Right.
So now you arrive at her house after having had a little to drink, being out in the cold for an hour and a half, and you're very angry. And what do you do when you get to the house, Mr. Chung?
I want to talk to her.
What do you do? Did you call her and tell her you wanted $35 for a cab?
Oh, I did.
She gave you the $35 for the cab. Is that right?
Right.
Was the cab waiting for you?
They kept waiting for me.
And then you went back upstairs.
Right.
Why did you go back to her apartment?
I was angry, and I know I was stupid. I go back to her house.
So what did you do to her when you got to the apartment?
I argued with her.
Tell me how you argued with her,
okay.
sir.
I told her, how come she just ignoring me? And when the police come, she told the police, just don't know me, something like that, just like her, just like friend.
Are you telling me, sir, that you didn't put your hands on her?
Oh, I never put my hand on her.
No, he's lying.
Real cases, real people. Judge Judy. Manessa Fong says ex-boyfriend Albert Chung injured her during a sexual assault. Manessa says Albert terrorized her over the course of 24 hours.
How long did you stay there that evening?
All night.
Did she ask you to leave?
She never asked me to leave.
That's a lot of baloney, sir. That's baloney. Because even if you were only arguing with her verbally, she would have asked you to leave.
She didn't ask me to leave. She let me sleep in her living room at the floor. She told me, because I'm legally blind, I'm visually impaired, I cannot drive, and it was late, around like 2 o'clock, and she let me sleep in her living room, and next morning she woke me up, and then and I left. But we were arguing for a long time.
Right.
Right.
Why do you believe that Miss Fong would have made 2 police reports if you had not threatened her?
Because when the argument, by the time, my language was very strong and insulting her, and she was angry. And I just want to make sure you understand, I didn't do anything physically.
I don't believe that, sir.
her,
I believe that you
and
did something physically to her. I believe that you did. I believe that you went there that night and you were very, very angry.
Right.
And when you are very, very angry, based upon something that you did earlier that evening, you, for whatever reason, wanted her to stop the car. And you pulled the emergency brake up. You could see good enough to pull up the emergency brake.
I don't need to see, I can feel it.
Just like you can feel her face. You pulled up the emergency brake, which means, Mr. Chung, that you have a temper. And what she did later on that evening, which was, according to you, felt sorry for you and let you sleep on the floor of her apartment, that doesn't sound like the kind of woman who would not let you out of a car if you wanted to get out of the car. So you got a temper. You've got a temper.
What's
and I
temper
believe
mean?
that you punched the windshield on the car. Didn't break it, but I believe that you punched it.
I did.
Sure, because you have a temper. And that was before you were standing outside for an hour and a half in the cold at 1 o'clock in the morning. That was before. After you were really mad because she was ignoring you in the ballroom. Right?
Mm-hmm.
Good. You better stay away from her because, you see this judge? You may get some very nice judge if you go near her again. You may get somebody who will be very sympathetic with the fact that you tell them that you can't see, you're legally blind, you're a poor soul, all right? You can't put your hands on anybody. Never. In anger. And get away with it. And I'm just very sorry that she didn't follow through. But I tell you something else. If you ever go near her again, ever, it is very possible that you're going to get unlucky and get somebody just like me. Do you understand?
Mm-hmm.
And if you get somebody just like me, you're going to go to jail. And they don't care what your handicaps are. Do you understand?
Yes.
Keep your hands to yourself and stay far away from her. Judgment for the plaintiff for the amount of $5,000 as requested. Stay away from her.
Thank you, Your
You
Honor.
are excused. You may step out.
I was terrified. The defendant was threatening me if I arrest him and put him in jail, he would kill me and my family.
I didn't do it. And if I did it, after the police did the full investigation, I already been in the jail.
Devonna Harvey is suing her ex-boyfriend, Ted Kelly Jr., for unpaid loans and airfare.
Court come to order. All rise.
Have a seat, please.
Hello, Judge. Case number 2040, Harvey versus Kelly.
Thank you. Ms. Harvey, according to what you wrote in your complaint, you've known Mr. Kelly since college?
Yes.
And you dated in college?
Yes.
That was more than 30 years ago?
Yes.
And according to Mr. Kelly, you broke up with him in
Yes.
college. In what year was that?
Oh, gosh. That was what?
Do you remember?
92, I believe, Your Honor.
And then somehow you reconnected. I assume you both had lives in between 1992 and 2022. When did you reconnect?
In April of 2021.
How?
Well, he was looking for me, so...
He was looking for you?
He emailed my best friend. He emailed her business and asked her, well, gave her his number and
said-
asked that I call him.
So far correct?
Yes, Your Honor.
So you were interested in seeing her again. In that 30-year period, did either of you have other people in your lives, have children, marry?
Yes.
You did?
Yes.
Okay, how long were you married?
I was married for 10 years.
Have any kids?
Yes, 2 kids.
And you, sir?
11 years. And
Have any children?
One child, yes.
Both divorced?
Yes.
Okay, that could have made an interesting love story, but didn't happen. Okay, so you wanted to reconnect with her. You got in touch with a friend of hers through a business number, and you called him?
Yes, I did.
And that was in April of 2021?
Yes.
Where did you live at the time?
Detroit, Michigan.
And you, sir?
Colton, California.
When was the first time you actually saw each other?
April of 2021.
You live in Michigan.
Yes.
But you have a child who lives in California.
I do.
How old is that child?
21.
Male or female?
Male.
And where does he live now?
With his dad.
When you come down to see him, where do you stay?
In the past, sometimes I would stay with his dad, and sometimes I would stay in a hotel.
So when you visit him, you either stayed with his father or your ex-husband?
Yes.
Or stayed in a hotel?
Yes.
Depending upon the circumstance. Most of the time, did you stay at the house with his father, or most of the time in a hotel?
Most of the time in the past, I stayed in the house with his father.
And is this his father's only child as well?
We have 2 children together.
2 children. Where's the other child?
She's in Chicago, Illinois.
How old is she?
26.
So you see her less frequently than you see your son?
I probably see them about the same.
Do you go to visit her in Chicago?
Yes.
And you go to visit your son in California?
Yes.
Okay. So what I'm gathering happened is you saw each other for a while. You thought it was an exclusive relationship. You did not.
At first, yes, I did, Your Honor.
And then what happened?
The last time I saw her was in Detroit. And when I returned from Detroit, the girl that I was seeing at the time had disappeared.
You mean the girl that you were seeing prior to seeing her?
Right, exactly. And I thought the relationship was over. She went deep into Mexico, and I hadn't heard from her. She had to go for some family business, and then she resurfaced once I came back. And
Once you came back from California on your last trip?
Once I came back from Detroit.
From Detroit?
Spending time with her.
To California.
And so we started talking again, and I didn't get in contact with her. She was trying to contact me, and so
So you stopped answering her calls?
No, not really. I called her, and I let her know that, you know, the girl resurfaced and that I didn't think it was going to be able to work out between me and her. And that's when the problem came along.
The problems with regard to money?
Yes.
Okay. So this is what your lawsuit is about. So you broke up with her, and at that time, according to you, you had unpaid advances to him for an airline ticket and car repairs and some small amount of money for a new grandchild that he had, some baby items. So let's start with the plane ticket. When was the plane ticket?
The plane ticket was purchased in May. It was to go and see him for his birthday.
Okay. Was this the only time that there was an airfare issue? Who paid for the airfare? Because he would drive most of the time.
He drove one time. I flew, and this was the only time that he said he would pay for the ticket. I paid the other time.
Okay, well, tell me about his discussion with you of paying for this ticket.
Sure.
In May.
So he wanted me to come for his birthday.
When is your birthday?
In June, Your Honor.
And I told him that I was looking for tickets.
He said, I want you to come for my birthday.
Yes.
No, tell me what he said.
He said...
Tell me what he said. No, don't look over there. Look over here.
He said, I'm going to fly my boo thing out.
Okay. And
later, I looked for tickets, and he said, oh, I was going to give you $500.
Okay. And you purchased the ticket, and that was in May of what year?
That was in May of 2021. We agreed that I would put the ticket on my credit card.
And when you got to his home in California, did he give you the $500?
He did not give me the $500.
When did you ask him for it again?
I didn't ask him for it while I was there.
And then?
And then when I was back home, he told me that he was going to take care of it. He said he was trying to get his money together to come to Detroit, and he was crunching numbers. And
No, I'm talking about the airline ticket.
Right. Then he said, I need to give that money to you this week, right? And I told him I had made a payment on a credit card and he could have more time. And so he said he would take care of it. He said, I'll take care of it when I'm there the 1st of August.
Did he come the 1st of August?
He came in August, yes.
Okay, and what happened in August?
He came in August. We was there. We did not have any discussion about money until he told me that his account was compromised and somebody owed him some money and didn't give him the money. And so that's when he asked for the other loan amount.
For the other amount of money? You mean he was in Michigan when he asked for more money?
Yes.
Well, when he asked for any money. You had never given him money before.
Correct.
Tell me about it.
So he sent me a text message, and he asked if I could go to the credit union and take out a loan for him.
I'd like to see that.
Sure.
Please, if it was in a text message. Thank you. Mr. Kelly.
Yes, Your Honor.
Can you check with your credit union and see if you could get a personal loan for $1,000 and I can make payments on it because I don't even have my gas money to get out here? And she responds, I can loan you $1,000. Is that all you need? And you respond to her, well, the $500 I'm short would be perfect if you can.
$1,500.
$1,500, excuse me. $1,500.
Yes, Your Honor.
Well, what do you think that meant? Hey, baby, you think you can make that loan and even $2,000?
No, I'm saying the money wasn't a problem until I dumped her.
I don't care if it was a problem a lot. You said it was a loan.
Exactly.
Pay careful attention. If you want a dog that guarantees you practically a nice disposition, buy a golden doodle, not a wolf.
Devonna Harvey says her ex-boyfriend, Ted Kelly Jr., owes for an unpaid loan and airfare.
Well, what do you think that meant?
That she was going to give me the money. But the reason the car was having the problems is because I drove it out there to see her.
No, it's not what this says at all.
Well, a couple days later.
Shh.
Sure.
That's not what this says at all. It says I'm in a hole. Can you go and get money from the credit union? Can you get $1,000? And she was nice, and she said to you, "Was that all you need?" And you said, "Well, as long as you're going, I could actually use $1,500. That would be perfect."
Right. I didn't know that we were keeping tabs on things because I've spent money on her and never asked her for anything.
It's not a question of spending money, sir. Spending money on her is chivalrous.
She came to see me on my birthday, but I bought her gifts. And I took her to Mexico for 4 days.
7 years of college and law school. I took the bar exam. I've been a judge for over 40 years. You think I'm going to listen to you buying her a hamburger? That's not what this is about, sir.
It wasn't a hamburger.
Or a present. That's what people do. You told me, sir, that you were in an exclusive relationship until your girlfriend from Mexico resurfaced. That's what you told me. So buying each other presents is not an issue. Did you tell her?
The plane tickets. I went to see her in college, and I didn't try to charge her for the plane ticket. She came to see me, and we never had that issue.
Are you talking about when you were in college?
No, I'm talking about the plane tickets. We never had an issue with me having to pay a plane ticket for her to come and see me.
I know that, but she said this one was different. This one ticket, not all the others when you visited. This one ticket, you said you wanted her to come for your birthday, and you said you would pay for the ticket.
She wanted to come, Your Honor. It wasn't I just wanted.
She said you said to her, "I want you to come for my birthday. I'll pay for the ticket."
Because she had the time that she could go at any time that she wanted to. She was planning to come out here anyway because her son was here.
Well, I understand you tell me that now. Did you ask her to come out for your birthday, is my question.
Yes, probably so.
Okay. How much was the airline ticket?
$500.
Show me. $446.80.
But with bags, it was $500.
I don't care about the bags. Okay. Now, I want you to tell me about these baby items. That's the last thing on your menu.
But we didn't finish with the other.
We finished with it.
But he asked me for an additional $500 after that $1,500. 2 days later. I have that here, too.
I'd like to see it, please. On Friday, August 20th, said, "Hey, baby, I had a question. Do you think you can make that loan and even $2,000? Because I need to get a few things done on the car." And she says, "Yes, but I can't get to the bank today. I can hit the ATM on my way home." Okay, that's fine.
Right.
What was that?
And there was never nothing said about a time limit or nothing until I got back.
Hey, baby, you think you can make that loan and even $2,000?
No, I'm saying the money wasn't a problem until I dumped her.
I don't care if it was a problem a lot. You said it was a loan.
Exactly. And when I told her I'd pay her back, she didn't hear from me, so then now we're here.
I don't know what you're talking about. That's a lot of mumbo-jumbo gibberish. Okay, $2446.88. Now tell me about the baby items.
So he asked me...
When?
Text message, that was...
When?
In July 8th, I'm sorry.
So this was before you loaned him the other money?
Yeah.
Okay, so in July...
He asked me, did I have Cash App? And I told him I did, because I thought, and I gave him my Cash App handle because I thought he was trying to pay me the airline ticket. But he said, no, the problem was that he didn't have Cash App, and he was trying to get his son's baby's mother some money and wanted to know if I could send it for him because I had Cash App.
How much money did he need for his son's
There were
girlfriend?
2 occasions. One was $60 and one was $50.
Do you recall that, Mr. Kelly?
I don't recall her not getting the money for that. I didn't do it because he wasn't in the area where I can give it to him, and I didn't have Cash App. and she sent it on the cash out, but I gave her the cash for that.
And that was in July?
Yes, while I was still there.
He never gave me any cash.
I don't think so either, because then you borrowed all this money the next month.
He also asked for a Western Union.
$25.56. Just for my own curiosity, sir, are you still with the girlfriend who disappeared to Mexico?
Yes.
Yes, you live together?
No.
Okay, well, it wasn't the ending that perhaps you all envisioned, but you borrowed this money from her, sir, and you have to return it. $25.56, judgment for the plaintiff. Thank you.
This court is adjourned.
Obviously, I'm happy.
Well, technically, yeah, it was a loan,
Judge saw through what he was trying to say. I don't know what he was trying to say.
but I spent money on her, and I never kept tabs on it.
Oh my gosh, he just asked me for a lot of money.
I wasn't in love with her, and somebody else came back from the past.
No, I just want my money, and I told him that. I just want my money.
So I'm curious, Judge, the ratio of cases that you've seen of women loaning men money versus the other way around, men loaning women, their girlfriends, money.
I think I would have to go with 80-20.
I would agree.
This woman has somebody who's reasonable. He, on the other hand, she was okay until his girlfriend from Mexico resurfaced, and he broke up with her. I think he probably was hurt all the years from college that she broke up with him, because he talks about it in his answer. But women really have to be smarter.
Invested in yourself would be my best advice for women.
Yeah, that's absolutely true. You invest in yourself.
Christine Singleton is suing dog owner Kevin Free for vet bills.
Court come to order. All rise.
Have a seat, please.
Hello, Judge. Case number 2064, Singleton versus Free.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Ms. Singleton, your case is relatively simple. It is your claim that the defendant's unleashed dog bit your dog.
Yes, ma'am.
And you incurred vet bills, and you want Mr. Free to be responsible for them.
That's correct.
Mr. Free says that it's true that his dog did bite yours on, I think, on the leg,
Yes, ma'am.
but that your dog was on his property and your dog was the aggressor. That's your position.
Correct.
Okay. And you were walking two dogs.
Two dogs and my nephew.
Nephew was a baby.
Yes, he was 3 years old, and my dog was 3, and the large dog that was bit, he was 12 at the time.
So you have a small rat terrier, I think. And your larger dog is what kind of dog?
A Siberian Husky.
And what kind of dog do you have, sir?
I have a Italian Mastiff, Cane Corso.
That's a big dog.
At the time, he was about maybe 12 months old, so maybe a little bit over a year. So he's bigger now, but yeah.
How much did he weigh?
At that time, probably about 80 pounds.
Tell me about your property, sir. You
Well,
have
we
a
stay-
photograph of your property?
I do.
I'd like to take a look at it.
Okay. Here's a couple of them here.
Miss Singleton, this incident happened when?
Christmas Day of last year, around 12:30, right before we had Christmas lunch.
Weather was okay?
Oh, it was great.
And how close do you live to Mr. Free?
I don't live anywhere near him. I actually live in Stone Mountain, but I was going to my parents' house for Christmas, so we were walking around the neighborhood. He lives almost directly behind my parents' house.
And I see that while there are driveways here, the front lawn extends all the way to the street. Is that right?
Yes.
And you were walking both your dogs, and were they leashed or unleashed?
They were leashed.
Both?
Yes, they were both leashed.
And Mr. Free, you sort of acknowledged that both of her dogs were on leashes.
I've only seen one dog. I didn't see two dogs, and I didn't see a child either. It was her and a dog. So
The dog that you saw, what kind of dog was
it
that?
looked like a husky. Looked kind of like a wolf. So I'm not sure.
So just a second. So you saw a husky.
Correct.
Did you see the plaintiff?
Yes.
So I'm going to ask you one more time.
Okay.
Was the husky on a leash?
I guess yes. I guess.
The answer is either yes or no.
I'm not sure. I wasn't.
Okay, well,
I
if
wasn't
you're
looking at
not
the
sure,
leash.
she says the husky was on a leash.
Yeah. So I'm not going to deny her dog was.
Okay. And your dog at the time was on your property unleashed.
My dog was on my property. Period.
Your dog, pay careful attention. Your dog was on your property
Correct.
unleashed.
Correct.
At 12:30. and tell him to make a circle where he was and an X where he saw for the first time Miss Singleton and her dog. X where you were, just where you were, you personally.
Okay.
And put a circle, the place where you saw Miss Singleton for the first time. Okay. So you were in the front yard.
Correct.
And that looks about 30 feet away from where you saw Miss Singleton for the first time.
If that.
From here to here.
I'll say about 20 feet. Your Honor. It's not as big as it looks on that picture. It's a pretty small yard.
I would say it's about 30 feet from where you put the X. It's all the way past the house. You're at the one side of the driveway. You have an entranceway to your house.
Correct.
And then you have, is this front a living room?
Yes, it is.
A living room, which is past that. And where you made a circle, which is a very large circle, is probably 10 feet away from the edge of the house.
Yes, that's where I know.
So I said it's about 30 feet away.
Okay.
And now I want you to put, can I have your pink Sharpie, please? Yes. Thank you very much. I want you to use this and put in this picture where your dog was at 12:30.
To get your understanding, you want
12:30. I want you to put a mark where your dog was immediately before you saw Miss Singleton and her dog.
Before, thank you. You're not going to be able to see.
Okay, great. Great. So your dog, according to you, was right next to you, about 30 feet away from where Miss Singleton was when you saw her.
To be honest with you,
dog.
he kind of moves around the yard. He doesn't sit still very much, so.
Well, you understand, Mr. Free, that even if your dog is on your property, you're supposed to maintain control of your dog all the time.
And which I
You
do.
understand that?
Yes, I do.
You understand that?
Yeah.
So if your dog is able to run 30 feet without being connected to you,
He didn't run.
just walk, cha-cha, tap dance, pirouetted, however he got there, your dog got 30 feet away from where you were.
Correct.
Your 80-pound dog. Ultimately, her case comes down to she was walking her leashed dog. I haven't figured out whose fault it is yet. She was walking her leashed dog, and your dog ran, walked, pirouetted, cha-cha, whatever it did, to her dog out of your control.
Christine Singleton claims dog owner Kevin Free owes for vet bills from a dog fight.
Now, Miss Singleton was walking with her other dog and a 3-year-old. I want you to process that into your mind. And this is a 12-month-old, which is still a puppy. You know, still a puppy, but at 80 pounds...
Your Honor, there was no 3-year-old. I didn't see a 3-year-old.
Just a second.
Okay.
I don't care what you saw while you were busy putting together something for Christmas in your front yard. If you didn't see it, that doesn't mean it doesn't exist. If you didn't see it, it just means you didn't see it. She tells me she sees it. She remembers walking her 2 dogs. You only remember 1. She has 2 that she was walking at 12:30 Christmas Day. The fact that you only saw 1 means you weren't paying attention to where your dog was.
Or they wasn't there.
Well, that's pretty stupid, Mr. Free.
I mean, does it make sense to carry 2 dogs and an infant down a neighborhood you don't even belong in? I mean, you don't know from?
Mr. Free, they're only going to take one voice.
I understand. Yeah.
They're only going to take one voice, and that's mine. Let me tell you why your argument is stupid. Because it doesn't make any difference whether she was walking 2 dogs or 4 dogs or 8 dogs. It doesn't make any difference whether she was walking with or without a 3-year-old. Ultimately, her case comes down to she was walking her leashed dog. I haven't figured out whose fault it is yet. She was walking her leashed dog, and your dog ran, walked, pirouetted, cha-cha, whatever it did, to her dog out of your control. Was not under your control because it was not leashed. Do you understand?
I understand.
Now,
I can take away everything else. Not that I'm going to, because I believe that you were distracted. You didn't see it. And I believed her that she was walking with her 3-year-old nephew.
Yes, ma'am.
Nephew and another dog that you didn't see. But that's not the issue in this case, whether she was with another dog, another child, or with anybody else. The issue is, whose fault is it that a dog was out of control? So now you're going to tell me what happened at 12:30 on Christmas Day, just so that Mr. Free doesn't think that I'm picking on him.
Okay.
Which I'm not.
Okay, I know.
You may think I am, but I'm not picking on him. You're walking with your husky.
Yes, ma'am.
On a leash.
Yes, ma'am.
What happened?
I was walking with my nephew, 3 years old.
No, don't just listen to me.
Okay.
Listen to me carefully.
Okay, just walk down the street.
I
Okay.
said you're walking. I got it in my mind.
Okay.
But so Mr. Free doesn't think that I'm being unfair to him, because he doesn't remember what he saw. You're walking your husky.
Okay, only him.
On the street. So your nephew didn't get hurt. Your rat terrier didn't get hurt.
That's correct.
Okay. So now you're walking your husky on the street. And?
Okay, and then all of a sudden we see a dog charging towards us. And
Who's we?
Oh, I called me, my nephew, and my dog's we.
No, now it's just I saw.
I saw a dog charging towards us. That dog and Leon got into an altercation, and then Leon turned around to try and kick the dog in the face, and he grabbed his foot and he let go.
Okay,
but then
let's go much slower.
Okay, yes, ma'am.
You saw a dog charging towards you.
Yes, ma'am.
And
that dog got into an altercation with my
your
dog.
dog.
Yeah.
Tell me about that initial altercation.
At first, they were biting each other's muzzles.
Okay, so they were both biting each other's muzzles.
Yes.
Okay.
My dog turned around to try and, I guess,
No, don't tell me what he was trying to do. Your dog turned around.
He kicked the dog in the face.
Your dog kicked his dog in the face.
Yes, he grabbed his leg, punctured it, let it go. Leon kicked him again. This time he grabbed his other leg.
Okay, so your dog kicked that dog again.
Twice, yes.
His dog again.
Yes, ma'am.
And?
That dog that time grabbed his leg, had a good hold, and shook it immediately. And then that's when I knew his leg was broken.
No, don't show me pictures.
Okay.
First I have to find whose fault it is before I look at pictures and vet bills.
Okay.
Okay. Now, when you saw his dog charging towards you, and your dog's name is Leon?
Yes, ma'am.
On a leash?
Yes, ma'am.
On a leash. But it's a big dog.
Yes, ma'am.
How much does it weigh?
Leon, 75 pounds.
So about the same as the defendant's dog?
Yes.
And it's a senior dog?
Yes, that is correct.
Has your dog ever had a history with another dog? I'm going to say it again. Has your dog ever had a history of an altercation with another dog?
No, ma'am.
Has your dog ever had a history of an altercation with another person?
No, ma'am.
And I assume if I asked you those questions, you would give me what answer, sir?
I would say no.
You would say no because?
Because my dog has never had any problems with any dogs.
With any dog?
Any dogs, person?
Any other person?
Correct.
So you would acknowledge, Miss Singleton, that I'm going to show you this photograph of Mr. Free's house. And what I'd like you to do is show me where, according to you, let's get her a different color pen. Do we have a different, well, we have, that's
This is blue.
Okay. I'd like you to make a P, to just put a P, where the dogs first made contact.
Thank you. Okay. It's not on this photo.
Is it on this photo? Do you have a photo?
I do have a photo.
Yeah, I'd like to see it.
Here.
Would you please make
This is his home, and this is where it happened, right underneath the tree.
Put a P there.
Okay.
Oh, so what you're saying is, where you put the P, that the dog was in the street.
Yes, ma'am, that's correct.
Were you in the street?
I sure was.
I would like you to put a D in this picture where you say, did you see Mr. Free?
I did not until he came and retrieved his animal.
Did you see where he came from?
No, ma'am, I did not.
Did you see anything being assembled in the yard?
Once we were leaving, yes.
And what did you see?
A basketball goal.
A basketball goal?
Yes, ma'am.
And is that what you were putting together, Mr. Free?
Yes, ma'am.
Would you show me where that was, please? it was here?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Now, Mr. Free, you're putting something together. The first thing you hear is a kerfuffle, some sort of a...
No.
What do you hear? Dogs are animals. They're not as smart as you are. But when your dog charged out into the street, it could just as easily have gotten hit by a car. That would have been your fault. Your dog was out in a public street outside of your control, and it's a big dog, and you should be more careful.
Christine Singleton claims dog owner Kevin Free is responsible for injuries after his dog attacked her dog.
No, I saw my dog run across the yard. So.
And you saw the dog running across the yard.
Well, normally I really don't have a problem with him.
Let me explain something to you.
Yeah. Okay.
My job that I'm really good at is telling when people are peeing on my leg and trying to tell me it's raining.
Okay.
Do you understand?
Yeah.
Now, I could tell immediately from your body language that you were beginning to tell me a whole bunch of who shot John. So I suggest to you, Mr. Free, that if you tell the truth, you don't have to have a good memory. Now, I want to explain to you why that's so important. Did you hear Miss Singleton? Miss Singleton actually said that her dog nipped yours in the face.
Correct.
She said that.
Correct.
She didn't have to tell me that. Okay. She said her dog not only nipped your dog in the face because they were fighting muzzle to muzzle, but afterwards kicked your dog twice. Do you understand? That's what she said.
I heard that, yeah.
That's what she said about that. That's sort of, that's sort of surprising. That would seem to someone.
It surprises me that dogs can
What?
get up on their front legs and kick too. So I don't know what she's saying to you, but I don't know. I didn't see any kicking.
Listen to
the fight lasted like 3 seconds. It wasn't. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
Do you understand when you're not telling the truth, Mr. Free?
Well, I think what you read from me is me responding to a whole bunch of stuff that was said that didn't.
No, what me responding to you is your body English. That's me responding to you because you were putting together this thing, but you said it was here.
Correct. It was in the driveway. It's pretty big.
Well, this isn't a driveway, sir. That's grass. That's what you marked where you were. And you marked where your dog was in the grass.
You asked me where I was.
Just a second.
Not the basketball goal.
No, I asked you where you were.
Yeah,
and you said here. And then you said to me, please read it back. Where were you? And you said, I believe he said he was in the driveway.
Correct. It was in the driveway.
I apologize. Excuse me.
Just a second. Driveway.
Okay.
Do you understand?
I do.
Eventually, it noodles its way out, sir. The same way it noodles its way out to, my memory is correct, in your answer you wrote down, you saw them for the first time in the street.
On the, what we call a curb. It's a small slope that comes up from down. Not all the way in the street, no.
No. Here, you see what happens, Mr. Free?
Yeah.
What you just said to me belies credulity.
Well, I'm trying to be as
just a
precise
second,
as I
but
can.
not
Excuse me.
because, you know, I've lived on this planet almost 80 years. And if I have a choice between walking in the street and walking in that little dip that's designed to take rainwater away, I don't walk in that thing because I'll get killed. I'll break my legs. And you certainly don't walk in this little thing if you're walking two dogs and a child. You don't walk in that little drain that's carved out here to take rainwater away. You walk either on the grass, on everybody's grass,
correct,
or you walk in the street.
Makes sense.
And you, sir, would have me believe that the plaintiff walked all the way around the block, walking on people's grass. Other than that, she would have to be in the street and decide, well,
Sometimes
I
it's
think I'm going to go up
unavoidable,
on
but
the
no,
grass in this
but no,
guy's
I wouldn't
house.
say that.
What?
Sometimes it's unavoidable, so I'm not saying that at all.
Sir, I have to tell you something.
Yeah.
You're going to pay her vet bills. Your dog was out of your control and was in the street, not on your grass. In the street. You had no control over your dog, an 80-pound puppy. Now, the dog could have, just playfully, knocked over the 3-year-old and hurt the 3-year-old. Could have. Didn't. Got into a scuffle with a dog approximately the same size. Her dog was leashed, within her control. Your dog, you had to run from where you were putting this together and come and get your dog.
Your Honor,
That's what you say.
A dog under control doesn't manage to do 2 jump kicks and a bite.
Sir. No, just a second, sir. You can do that if you're on a leash. Her dog never left her hand.
Your Honor, the injuries was to the hind feet of the dog.
This isn't, Mr. Free, this is,
okay.
Maybe your wife lets you get away with that, sir. I don't. This is not a tap dance. This is not a recital or a rehearsal. You made a picture of where you said this happened. Yeah. I don't believe you. That's what it's about. I believe that this occurred on a public street, and on the public street, you had no control of your dog. You decided to let your dog stay outside. You haven't had any trouble with your dog before, so you wouldn't have anticipated that your dog would run out into the street, because if your dog ran out into the street and a car hit it and killed it, whose fault would that be?
That would definitely be mine.
That would definitely be yours, right? Do you think that you might sue the person who hit your dog? You might try. You might try. You might say, oh, my God, they should have been going slower. Oh, my God. Do you understand? You're the owner. Dogs are animals. They're not as smart as you are. But when your dog charged out into the street, it could just as easily have gotten hit by a car. That would have been your fault. But under those circumstances, you would have said it's the car's fault. Your dog was out in a public street outside of your control, and it's a big dog, and you should be more careful. If you want to keep your dog outside while you're putting something together and keep the dog on your property, put down a stake, put the dog on a lead, and let the dog stay outside with you. But if you let a 12-month-old, 80-pound dog run loose and it runs into the street, you, sir, are responsible for the consequences. What was your vet bill?
It was $1,832.64.
Judgment for the plaintiff. We're finished. Thank you.
This court is adjourned.
I don't think that I was 100% responsible.
I'm glad it was swift and easy, honestly.
From my perspective, it lasted for about 3 seconds.
I was trying to fight with this man for a while. I'm glad it's over.
It might have happened in that 3 seconds, but it was too fast for my eyes.
Honestly, it was kind of traumatizing, especially since I had a 3-year-old with me, and I had to quickly think and just pick him up before the dog got him.
I think they just fought and my dog won.
Bring the Judy justice, baby.
I watched the show. I know how she gets down, you know?
So, as you know, we have 2 large, pretty docile golden retrievers at home that are now 8 and 12 years old. But even when we have family that comes over, or friends with little children that are curious, that like to come up and pull on the ears a little or play with them, you have to be careful. They're 80 and 90-pound dogs. We've never once had a problem with either of them. But you just never know. You can't control a dog that's 90 pounds, but they're just big. They could knock them over by accident with their tail, just so excited.
Yeah, so you have to be careful. You have a responsibility when you have a big dog.
100%.
Michael Griniger is suing truck mechanic Sean Antle for a truck engine and repair costs.
Court come to order. All rise.
Have a seat, please.
Hello, Judge. Case number 2022, Griniger versus Antle.
Thank you. Mr. Griniger, how long have you and the defendant been friends?
I've known Sean probably maybe 3 or 4 years now.
From where?
He lives about 3 blocks away from me. I've met him through another friend that told me he worked on his vehicles before.
You did mechanical work?
Yes.
What kind of business are you in?
Construction, you name it, anything construction.
And you have a couple of trucks?
Yes.
How many?
I have one commercial vehicle, and then I just have a Chevy Avalanche.
The commercial vehicle, would you describe it to me? That's the one he was supposed to work on?
Yes.
Describe it to me, please.
It's a 16-foot box truck.
How old?
97.
1997?
Yes, ma'am.
It's as old as Sarah. And I suppose it needed a little work.
Yes.
And you took it to your friend.
Yes.
Did you drive it over there to his house 2 or 3 blocks away? Did you have it towed over to his place?
We had to have it towed over there. It was operable before.
But you had it towed?
Yes.
Yeah. And what month and year did you have it towed there?
I believe this started in June of 2020.
And Mr. Antle, you looked at it and you determined it needed a new engine.
Well, I looked at it. Actually, I did some work prior to that. The intake manifold gasket was...
You mean before June of 2020?
Yes.
And then the truck was running? Then he took back...
Running very crappy.
So it was not running well even after you fixed it?
After I put the intake gasket on, I had it started, it made the same noise. We decided to put an engine in it.
Okay, so it wasn't working after the initial work you did on it?
No.
Decided to put an engine in it. How much was it to work on the engine?
He gave me a little bit of money here, a little bit of money there. It was not all in one lump sum.
How much did he give you?
It was 100 here once, 100 twice, a couple different times, you know.
How much money did you give him?
$800.
How much did you quote him for the whole job?
$1,000.
So he gave you $800, and according to the papers that Mr. Griniger filed, he also purchased an engine.
Yes.
And this was in June of 2020.
I didn't get the motor at my house until I'm trying to think. It was in the winter, it was in December.
Of 2020?
Yes, 2020, yep.
Do you have the date that you purchased the engine?
Yes.
What was it?
January 7th, 2021.
Okay, so the truck sat on his property for 6 months
Yes.
before you got the engine, which was needed to fix it.
Yes. He said it was the intake plenum.
Was that in June of 2020?
Yeah, that's when it began. That's the whole.
Okay. When did he tell you that you needed an engine? In what month? Do you recall?
That was in January.
So the truck sat there, and finally you told him that it needed a new engine, but it was already sitting there for months.
I told him 2 or 3 months prior to that.
Okay, so it was sitting there for 3 months or
Yes.
4 months?
Yes.
And he'd already paid you the $800?
He gave me a little bit here and there, yes.
They already paid you the $800 towards the $1,000. So this is what the case is about. The truck has never been fixed. He doesn't have the engine anymore. He scrapped the engine, according to him. Yes. So you want what you paid for it, the engine.
Yes, Your Honor.
First of all, Mr. Ransell said, well, he worked on another truck for you, a smaller truck, and so that ate up the $800. And you didn't come for the engine, and finally he just sold it for scrap. Mr. Antel, were you very busy during this period of time?
Not really, no.
Well, could you tell me why it took 3 months for you to tell him that he needed a new engine?
He knew after I put the plenum gasket back on. I called him on the phone.
What month?
It had him in November, right before Thanksgiving.
So at the end of November. So you had the truck since June. June, July, August, September, October. You had the truck 6 months. Could you tell me why?
Why? I had problems with it. I couldn't get the bumper off. I couldn't do none of that.
Well, but that's your responsibility. You undertook a job.
Yeah, I took the job because he was supposed to help me, and he never did.
He was supposed to help you put in the new engine?
Help me get the bumper off, and then I had problems with the city of Brooklyn Center.
No. He was supposed to help you get the bumper off, and because you couldn't get the bumper off, you couldn't do the engine. Is that what you're telling me?
Yeah, because it was rusted solid.
Shh. I assume, I've read your papers, I assume this is the mechanic that you say helped you work on another car for him that you gave money to?
Yes.
Okay, so that's why he's here.
Yep.
Okay. In what month and year did you fix this other car?
January
of 2021.
2022.
So in January 2022, the truck was where?
The Avalanche.
The big one.
At his house, at Mike
And he
Griniger's.
brought you another truck?
Yes.
Which other truck did he bring you in?
The Chevy Avalanche.
The big truck, the commercial truck, is now back at his house.
Yes.
And it went back to his house because they were going to tow it from the city.
Yes.
And you say in January, he then brought you a different truck.
Yes, of 2022.
That you worked on.
Yeah, completed it.
Just a second. Do you recall that, sir?
No, it's not exactly how it went.
Did you, in January of 2022, did you bring him, you had the big commercial truck back at your house because it had to be moved.
Yep.
You hadn't gotten your $800 back.
Nope.
And he still had the engine.
Yep.
In January of this year.
Yep.
So, yep is not an answer, yes is an answer. So, why, sir, under those circumstances, would you bring him another car to fix? You have a driver's license?
It's currently suspended.
How long has it been suspended, Mr. Griniger?
About a year now.
Now, why is that? Have you had accidents in the past? Yes.
Yes.
Yes, serious ones. Yes.
Michael Griniger claims truck mechanic Sean Antle owes for a truck engine and repair costs. Sean is countersuing, claiming Michael filed a false police report against him.
Now, you hadn't gotten your $800 back.
Nope.
And he still had the engine.
Yep.
In January of this year.
Yep.
So, yep is not an answer, yes is an answer. So, why, sir, under those circumstances, would you bring him another car to fix?
Because then I had absolutely no transportation. I needed something to work.
Just a second. You have a big truck, you had a little truck. So the big truck is now immobile, it's at your house. And the only working vehicle that you had needed work on it.
Yes.
So you brought it to him.
Yep.
Not yep. That's yes.
Yes.
And he worked on it.
Yes.
Because it was inoperable.
No, it was operable, but he told me that...
Not he told you. You didn't bring it to him because he told you you were having trouble with it.
Yes.
What kind of trouble were you having with it?
There was a grinding
that's a big deal. Grinding sound.
Yes.
What parts did it need?
Well, he told me it was the transfer case.
Did he fix your truck?
Eventually, but it was the rear end.
Just a second. Eventually, did he fix, take your hands out of your pockets, did he fix the truck? The second one? The smaller one?
Yeah.
The one that you needed for transportation?
Yes, eventually, yes, he did put in a rear end.
Okay. Did you pay him for that?
Yes, ma'am, I did.
How much did you pay for that?
$300.
How long did he have it?
Oh, he did that within about a week.
2 days.
2 days. Okay. So it took you 2 days?
Yes.
Did you give him a bill for that work?
I didn't give him nothing, just a word of mouth.
He says that he gave you $300 to fix that car. Did he give you $300 to fix that car?
No, he did not.
Okay, do you have any proof?
$600 altogether.
Just a second. Would you please show me any proof that you have that you gave him $300 to fix that car?
I don't have proof of the money that I gave him. I just have the receipt.
He doesn't got it. Okay.
I just have the receipts for the parts that I bought for the vehicle.
Okay.
He first said it was the transfer case. I buy a transfer case.
Doesn't matter. He's working, so...
Yeah, but I paid him to do something. He took something apart of the truck. It wasn't even the problem. But yet I still paid him for it.
But this, quite honestly, I don't understand.
And then I paid him for the rear end, too.
I don't understand a couple of things.
Okay.
If I've been disappointed by a workman, as you clearly were, from June 2020 until January 2022, because they hadn't completed a job for you, despite the fact that you purchased the part, I wouldn't call that same mechanic back. I wouldn't call that same plumber back. I wouldn't call that same electrician back because I'd had a bad experience with them. So it confounds me as to why you would take another vehicle to him if you were so dissatisfied with his work.
Understandable.
Yeah. Well, so why?
Felt like I was in, in a tight spot, and I really couldn't
What kind of
afford.
tight spot were you in? Where do you live?
I live in Minneapolis.
Minneapolis, that's a big town. There are lots of mechanics there. There are lots of auto repair, truck repair.
Yeah, but I really financially couldn't afford legitimate.
Well, that's what happens when you deal with a legitimate. But I don't understand why an otherwise intelligent man would take his only semi-operating vehicle to the same person who had his truck for a year and didn't fix it. Listen, what'd you do with his engine?
I scrapped it.
Okay. Don't be mad at me.
Huh?
Don't be mad at me.
I'm not. I love you.
Okay, good. Thank you. When did you scrap it?
The end of April of 2022.
Did you give him any notice that you were going to scrap his engine?
No, I did not. There's a false police report made against me.
Okay.
I have the case number and the officer's number.
Okay, just a sec. So you retaliated because that's your counterclaim, that he filed a false police report, as a result of which, and the false police report said that during the course of a heated argument about this truck, that he says that you pulled a gun and...
Did not.
Filed a police report.
Yeah. No, I didn't.
Joe?
You did.
Prove it. You can't.
Mr. Rantel. And that's your counterclaim, that he filed this false police report and nothing ever came of it except you were embarrassed by being questioned by the police in front of family members.
Yes.
And as a result of that false police report, you threw away his motor.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, well, you can't do that. That you can't do. How much did you pay for the motor, sir?
$690 plus I paid $100 for delivery of the motor.
I'd like to see the invoice for that.
I got the invoice for the motor, but
That's all I need.
Okay.
Thank you. So, Mr. Rantel, so that we're clear, you have to understand you can't get even by selling somebody else's property.
I didn't
What you
sell
do?
it. I didn't sell it. I
Scrap.
gave it away.
It doesn't matter. By disposing of. Let's make it disposing of. When you say you scrapped it, you mean nobody gave you $10 for it?
Not a dime.
Okay. Then you can't give it away in retaliation.
Why
for
not?
filing.
Why not? It was in my possession.
No, because you took...
Try to put me in jail for not
just a
something I
second.
didn't do.
Just a second. I'm speaking. I'm speaking. You cannot sell someone else's property in retaliation for them doing something to you when you have legal recourse. Your legal recourse is to come here and file a case. You did it as a counterclaim and say he filed a false police report against me that I was using a gun. So that's what you do. The response to that isn't, I'm going to sell his property. That's not your response. when I used to sit in family court, I had young people, one of whom was selling drugs for a very long time, heavy drugs. Kid, 15, 16 years old. And he had 6 or 7 priors for selling heavy-duty drugs. And I tried that case, and there was no question he was selling drugs. And his lawyer's argument at the disposition stage of that case was he was selling drugs because his grandmother died. I said, I lost all my grandparents, and I was close to my grandparents. I did a lot of things. I grieved, lost my appetite for a while. I was sad, but I didn't sell drugs. So when somebody does something to you that you believe is against the law, your responsibility is you file a case against them.
Right.
You proceed legally against them. You don't take it out in another way, because that doesn't make a civilized society. Just doesn't. That make sort of a vigilante kind of thing. So you shouldn't do that. So you have to pay him for his injury. Now, as far as the second piece of your case is the $800 that you gave him, I have no idea how much it was to fix your second car, but he did in fact fix it. And since you had no particular agreement with him on how much it was, and according to you, you couldn't deal with someone, you didn't have the funds to deal with someone who was, I think the word was legitimate.
Legitimate.
That's a problem that I can't resolve for you. Now let's get to this argument and his counterclaim. The argument that you had was over the truck.
The white truck? Yes.
Any truck. I don't care what.
Yes.
I'm not a truck girl myself. I like 4-door comfortable sedans. And this argument took place on what date? Why don't you tell me, Mr. Antel, because this is your counterclaim.
It was the end of April.
End of April of 2022.
Yes.
And the police were called.
No, ma'am.
Yes, the police were called. They showed up at my place.
No, the police report is 7/25/22.
7/25/22.
May I see the police report?
Yes, ma'am. Your Honor.
That's a lie, because it was April.
I'm going to look at it. Just a second. Yeah, time of occurrence, April 22nd, 2022. It was April.
Yeah.
Yes, I got him.
You don't need a truck, you don't need a car. You have no driver's license.
No, ma'am. Me and my son, we work construction together. He drives.
Do you know how old I am? Do you have any idea how old I am? You think that I believe that? He's only going 4 miles an hour.
Michael Griniger is accusing truck mechanic Sean Antle of wrongfully selling his engine and threatening him. Sean claims Michael accused him of flashing a gun he never owned.
Now, I'm going to look at it. Just a second. Yeah, time of occurrence, April 22nd, 2022. It was April.
Yeah.
Yes, I got him.
You have a driver's license?
It's currently suspended.
How long has it been suspended, Mr. Griniger?
About a year now.
What were you doing driving a vehicle?
I wasn't. They were towing the vehicle with a tow chain.
I understand that. But you drive a vehicle, sir.
I was steering the vehicle.
What does that mean, you were steering the vehicle?
Driving it.
The vehicle
Just-
moving at 4 miles an hour.
I don't care if it was running backwards. I just asked you. You have no license because according to the police, you having a driver's license would be inimical to public safety. That's what it says here. Now, why is that? Have you had accidents in the past? Yes.
Yes.
Serious ones? Yes. Okay. You don't need a truck, you don't need a car. You have no driver's license.
No, ma'am. Me and my son, we work construction together. He drives.
Do you know how old I am? Do you have any idea how old I am? You think that I believe that? I was only going 4 miles an hour. I will set the rules of what it is that means driving. You go 5 miles an hour, it's really not
He lives
driving.
3 blocks away from him. We were just
I don't care.
towing it down the street.
I don't care whether you were in the kitchen, he was in the laundry room. And when you spoke to the police, Mr. Griniger, there were 2 other witnesses, and you would not give them the last name or contact information for either of them. Is that right? That's what it says here, unless it's calling the police.
Yeah, I didn't know
lies.
his last name.
And you wouldn't give them your son's name because you say he doesn't like police.
And that I want to make straight. That is not true. I would not tell a police officer my son
Should be noted that Griniger stated that Michael Jr. would not give a statement because he didn't like police.
Right.
As well as Griniger would not give the phone number for Michael Jr. I'm just telling you, I'm reading you what
I know, I'm
but
sorry.
you handed me. It's your evidence.
Yep, I'm sorry.
Okie dokie. Did you make an application, Mr. Griniger, for any sort of protective order against him?
No.
No. You were advised by the police that you could do that if you wanted to.
No.
Interesting.
Yeah, that report is interesting.
It was you, your son, and this person, Kyle, who were present, and only Mr. Antel.
Is that right? When this confrontation took place?
Yes.
And according to you, you got out of your truck and you started walking towards him aggressively. That's according to you.
That's not
according.
true. He's 40 feet away from me.
No. According to you, I'm reading you what your police report says, sir.
Yeah, but
I'm reading what your police report says based upon what you told the police at the time back in April.
it's not entirely correct.
Griniger stated that he started advancing towards Antel. Griniger also stated that he called Antel you while he was walking towards him. It should be noted that Griniger stated, and this is all on body cam, that he was walking towards Antel aggressively. Griniger stated that Antel then pulled what he described as a black handgun out of his sweatshirt pocket. He described it as black and silver trim. He stated that he did not point it or say anything, just showed it to him to make you aware that he was carrying. And after the police interviewed both of you and confirmed the two people with you were out and you were walking and confronting him aggressively, called his names, and could not confirm the fact that he had a gun, took out a gun, not pointed it to you, just showed you that he had it, they decided to do nothing. That's what you're telling me. That's what this report says.
Yeah, they didn't validate it as a threat.
They did not validate it at all.
Right.
Okay, so, Mr. Rantel.
Yes.
What happened after that report is that police officers came to your house to ask you about that.
Yes.
Right? And you said, related practically the same thing that Mr. Griniger did to the police, that he approached you, that he called you a name, that he was aggressive. You said all of that.
Yes.
But you said you did not have a gun.
That's right.
Okay. And this is not meant to hold you criminally responsible for anything. Mr. Rantel, have you ever had possession of a gun?
No.
Ever in your life?
No.
Did you ever purchase a gun?
No.
In your state, in order to purchase a gun legally, do you have to go through a process or is it a carry state?
You gotta go through a legal process.
You have to?
Yes.
Okay. Were you ever arrested for carrying a gun?
No.
Other than your statement that he showed you that he had a gun, and how far was he standing from you?
About 40 feet.
40 feet away. And you saw him take something out of his sweatshirt pocket.
He didn't remove it out of his pocket. He removed his hand covering it.
What does that mean?
It was in his pocket. He was wearing a hoodie.
How do you know it was in his pocket? What do you have, X-ray vision?
No, my son seen it because his vehicle was right alongside his vehicle. So my son seen it, and then when he got back in his car and pulled up another 10 feet and got out of his car, turned around and said, yeah, bring it, and a few expletives, and then pulled his hand out of his hoodie pocket and revealed the handle of the gun.
Just a second. So you're saying at that time you saw it?
Yes.
You saw it, not your son
My
40
son
feet away.
had seen it on
not
the
son
seat
40
of his
feet away.
car.
That's a lie.
But you saw
He reached in and grabbed it and put it in his sweater because when he got back out of the car to face me is when he decided to show me he had a gun.
Okay. Were you out of your truck at the time?
Yes, I was standing beside
Okay,
him.
so you were out of your truck. And what about your son? Was he out of the truck?
Nope.
He was in. What about Kylie?
He remained in the truck too. He was the one in front pulling the truck that I was steering, and he was following behind. It was a little convoy.
And Mr. Rantel was by himself?
Yes, he was driving down the street in the opposite direction.
Mr. Rantel, I am not satisfied, quite frankly, and cannot make a determination whether or not you had a gun or what appeared to be a gun or what appeared to be something in your pocket or whether you even moved your hand in your pocket to demonstrate maybe you had a weapon. I don't find that the acts that you allege that he committed by filing this false police report is something that I can justify giving you a financial award for, because I'm not so sure that you didn't have something in your pocket.
I didn't have
I'm not sure. In any event, Mr. Rantel, you owe him for the engine that you discarded in a peak. You can't do that. Cost of the engine was $590, right? $590. Judgment for the plaintiff. We're finished. We're
Court is adjourned.
I was kind of in a hard spot. I needed my truck fixed.
Try to push me and push me.
I trusted him.
It didn't work today.
No.
I don't want peace. I want problems, always. Things say they why. Ito,